Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone today. I'm President Irene Bustamante Adams and call this work session of November 5th, 2025 to order. The time is 4:01. I would like to remind everyone to silence your electronic devices. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the territorial homelands of the Niuwu, the Moapa Band of Paiutes, and the Las Vegas Band of Paiutes. We will open with our flag salute. Trustee Cavazos, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? We will next move to Agenda Item 102, Adoption of the Agenda. Is there anyone that did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? I'd show you one if I had one, but I don't, but it's yellow looking. Okay, seeing none, we'll close that. Trustee Dominguez, will you make a motion to approve the agenda?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda with the following changes: to delete item 2.01, annual membership, National Schools Board Association, Council of Urban Boards of Education, CUBE.
Thank you. I will entertain a second. Trustee Cavazos?
I will second that motion, Madam President.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure, we had some members that were going to be calling in. Justin, can you tell me who we have?
Trustee Adam Johnson is online. Trustee Henry is online. And Trustee Lorena Biasotti is also online.
Thank you. We have a first and a second for item 2.01. Please cast your votes. Trustee Henry.
Aye.
Trustee Biasotti.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Next, we'll go ahead and move on to item 2.02, innovative pilot programs. Dr. Welsh, and I don't know who else you'd like to call. We're very excited about this item. I know one of our trustees had requested it. We're very interested in hearing about the innovative practices within our school district.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. Here with the team, we're going to share some very exciting updates on some of the innovative programs that we have going on in the district.
Madam President, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm
Can I
sorry.
interrupt? Sorry, Antonio. There may have been a misstatement in your motion to approve the agenda. I'm hearing that you might have said 201, which is the one that was deleted. So the motion is to approve item 102. So if I could ask you to, just in case, if we could restate that motion
Thank you.
and take the vote again.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
that clarity. So the motion was to approve the agenda, so that would be item 102. We had a first from trustee Dominguez and a second from trustee Cavazos. Can you please recast the vote? And trustee Henry, are you still a yay?
Yes, aye.
Trustee Biasotti, are you still a yes?
Aye. Yes.
Okay, that motion for item 1.02, adoption of the agenda, passes 7-0. Thank you for that clarity. Dr. Welsh, please proceed with items 2.02.
All right, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. Very excited, pleased to be with you here this evening to share some updates regarding some of the innovative pilot programs we have going on in the school district. I'm joined with the group here with Dr. Kayleen Ellis, who's our Assistant Superintendent of Leadership and Professional Learning, and three of our amazing school principals, Ryan Cordia, who's over at Northeast Career and Technical Academy, Antonio Real, who's over at Western High School, and then Ramona Fricker, who's over at Jim Bridger Middle School. And so, sorry, user error. There we go. All right. And so we're going to provide an overview of some of these innovative pilot programs that we have operating within the district and their impacts on student learning, which includes our Warrior Opportunity Wednesdays at Western High School, Flexible Pace and Mastery Blended Learning over at Northeast Career and Technical Academy, and then our district initiative to embed project-based learning and specifically share regarding its implementation at Bridger. And so with that, we'll kick it over to the team here to move on. There we go. There you go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Antonio Rael from Western High School. The idea for Warrior Opportunity Wednesday was really born out of us realizing that the traditional education model did not meet the needs of our students. Western High School is a school that has historically underperformed a decade plus. Our children have not really met the standard academically. So we started this conversation about a year and a half to 2 years after the COVID space, where we started to use this phrase, which has become common now. How do we reimagine education to meet the needs of our students in Western High School? We're a school that has the traditional at-risk population. We're amongst the highest in terms of ELL students as well as special education students. With that in mind, and with the academic history of the school, we never believed that there is or was a genius gap on our campus. There's an opportunity gap. And so we looked at a way to fill that gap and meet the needs of our students who do have enduring academic gaps. And so how do we meet that? We came up with this idea for these Wednesdays, Warrior Opportunity Wednesdays, and it was rooted in three core areas. One, how do we remediate academic deficiencies or gaps? Two, how do we accelerate students to help them reach the level we believe they're capable of? And three, how do we treat teachers like professionals and help them reach the levels they're capable of? So hence was born this crazy Wednesday schedule with a couple of primary focuses around the students and the staff schedule. So any given Wednesday on our campus, about 60% of students actually come to campus physically and attend between 1 and 4 Warrior periods on that day. 100% of students do virtual lessons for each of their 6 classes. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday looks like a traditional 1 through 6 schedule. Wednesday, students are assigned to between 1 and 4 classes based off of their academic needs. So each Wednesday, our teachers get 80 minutes of uninterrupted professional learning community time and 80 minutes of professional learning time. That's half of their day. In that PLC time, they're looking at what we call short cycle assessments to analyze data to determine which students have mastered standards and which students need additional time. The great dilemma for high schools is when you have students that have not mastered the standards, where do you create the space for them to increase and have opportunity to increase their understanding of the standards? So the students are assigned to warrior periods, again, between 1 and 4, based off of those needs. And because we only have about 60% of students on the campus on a Wednesday, those class sizes are about 10. So it's very targeted instruction to meet the needs of those children. We also have the space to help students accelerate. That is, students who we know are capable of reaching AP classes, can get the support they need in what we call AP labs or dual enrollment support so they can reach and aspire to be successful with those classes overall. So the school day for a student between 1 to 4 warrior periods, if they don't have an assigned class, they go to what we call a warrior space where we have our National Honor Society students providing tutoring for those students to make sure they're okay in their regular classes or one of those 6 virtual assignments. But the idea ultimately is this: create the space with a flexible schedule where students come and get what they need from their teachers based off the data, which has changed real time week to week. We literally have a schedule that is evolving every Wednesday, and responsive scheduling looks different every single Wednesday on our campus. It is a powerful model. So I kind of talked about the why and the what, and the win of our model is our students have been advancing academically. Our ACT pass rate for math has tripled percentage-wise in the 2 years we've done the program. On the ELS side, we've just about doubled. Our AP class participation or number of AP classes taken has improved by 75%, 70% growth, with having about 65% growth in terms of the number of students that are passing AP exams. And the MAP assessment, just so you have an idea, in terms of how students are growing compared to national, both in ELA and math, our students last year from the fall to the spring semester growth, which is compared nationally, outpaced their peers across the nation in both those subject areas. So the model of meeting students right where they're at, treating teachers like professionals so they can grow academically and their impact to students, has yielded fruit after the first couple of years of the program. Thanks.
Dr. Welsh, do you want us to go through all presentations and then take questions?
Let's do, and then we
Okay.
can take questions at
Okay.
the end. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Ryan Cordia for the record, and I'm here to talk about Northeast Career Tech Academy. So we opened 3 years ago, entering our first graduating class this year, and we were trying to reimagine, in Antonio's words, what it looked like for the last 720 days of high school. And we believe this generation is unique in the fact that they will work tirelessly and they will crowdsource and they will never give up on something they believe in. And whenever there's not a why, then it's really hard to get them going. And so what we decided was to develop a Simon Sinek Golden Circle, which you can see on the screen here. And our why is to shorten the timeline from freshman orientation to revenue generation. And that is that we want every student to have a plan for professional success after high school. So we use that tree that's in the center with 2 of our stars there pointing to what their leaf is on the tree. So every one of our students gets 4 years of professional high-skill career training. And within that, every semester we go through an official career coaching unit with them where they look at jobs at level 1, 2, and 3. So level 1 jobs on the bottom of that tree are jobs they have access to just by going to our school for 4 years and doing their CTE classes. Level 2 jobs in the middle of that tree, those leaves all require a professional certificate. And level 3 jobs, those leaves require a degree to get access. So these are access points, not a hierarchy. They are celebrated equally on our campus. And so the metaphor we use with our visitors and students is that a level 3 job on the top of that tree would be a marine biologist. Someone who works on that person's boat would be a level 1 job straight to work. The boat technician would make 3 times as much money, but both people would love going to work. So which one of those is a good job? They both are. It's not up to us. It's up to the student to decide. And if we get out of their way, they had now spread those leaves out. So those are 2 students in our architecture and engineering programs. Very few leaves say architect or engineer on them. They say hundreds of different jobs because we got out of their way and let the students find where their passion and their ability intersect. And that becomes why they go to school. So the next important part of the circle, the how, is our mastery learning model. So we believe all students can learn, but we also believe that all students learn at different paces. And so if we believe that, we need to build a system that allows flexible pacing for students based on effort and ability. So we use the 4 buckets on the right side of the screen for every unit in all of our classes. Students progress at their own pace and ability through each unit. They do a unit overview where they set their own timelines and they set what they will look like at the end. Then they go to a blended self-paced model where there's videos from teachers, there's resources available, there's synchronous and asynchronous, there's tier 1 small group, there's all the structures in a classroom that are available to them, and all the asynchronous resources are available at any point to them in after hours time. Then we do a discourse with them. So we verify they learned either with a student talking to a teacher or students talking to each other with a teacher verifying that they have learned the foundational skills they need for that unit. And then once that has been verified, they go on to the last piece, which is a performance task where they then go and apply those skills. So students progress through those 4 stages of every unit in every class at their own pace. And based on effort and ability, they can complete their courses more efficiently or slower as needed. So that flexible mastery learning has allowed every student to find success regardless of deficiencies or extra supports they needed. And if they don't need any support, we get out of their way and they can fly through material pretty quickly. On the left side of the golden circle there, we have our EQ. So that's the leadership skills training that we think may be the most valuable skills they leave our school with. So every month in our freshman sophomore year, they get social emotional training from our elective teachers. And then every quarter in their career classes, our counselors push in to give emotional intelligence training. So our students leave with the ability to self-regulate their emotions and the emotions of the group and then take action for their own self and for the group so that their leadership skills when they leave our campus will be mirrored with their professional skills and their academic skills. And we believe there is no ceiling on their success after they leave Northeast. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Kayleen Ellis for the record. I'm here to share the district overview and implementation of our project-based learning PBL pilot program. Our PBL pilot initiative started in 2021 with the goal of deriving student growth through innovation and high-quality instruction. The initial cohort included 15 schools that were selected based on strong leadership, innovative teaching practices, and commitment to community engagement. The focus on PBL was to shift the classroom experience to a student-centered inquiry model. PBL fosters deep engagement, it challenges students with real-world problems, and it builds essential communication and collaboration skills. Our first implementation strategy was a call for innovative leaders. This was essential as the instructional shift required by project-based learning is significant, and selecting innovative leaders was necessary to ensure that the intensity of the professional learning translates directly into deep classroom-level instructional change that's sustainable. We learned alongside the initial group of innovative leaders, capturing their successes and their challenges along the way, and these pilot principles developed the mission and inform the key district initiatives for implementation that you see on the screen. The structured training and professional learning through PBL works, building buy-in and allowing the time to do so, collaboration and planning with and across schools, and also addressing their challenges. These key strategies have been used to support the continuation of the pilot school project. The pilot schools have demonstrated successful implementation and significant initial impact, and to date, we've had 38 pilot schools as part of this. Since launching, 550 educators have been trained, with 98% of them implementing at least one gold standard project after the training, and a review of almost 8,000 student surveys over the course of the project have indicated improved collaboration and communication skills. So these core elements of PBL, strong standard alignment, formative assessment, feedback, authenticity, student voice, and choice, they all have proven effective with notable impacts on student growth reflected in our principal exit interviews and also in our classroom walks. The pilot is a strategic investment in our leaders and our educators, and several of our pilot principals have been nationally recognized for their PBL implementation through our PBL Works partners, including Antonio Real and Ramona Fricker, who are here with us tonight. Moving forward, our strategy is to build strong coherence with the portrait of a Nevada learner and the elements of gold standard project-based learning. These essential durable skills like critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and adaptability are tightly aligned with the district's focus on college and workforce readiness. The project aims to continue to sustain and scale with allowing 10 additional schools each year, ensuring that tight rigor and portrait competencies are also embedded. At this time, I'd like to recognize these schools that have been a part of the project. Cohorts 1, 2, and 3 have successfully completed the multi-year professional learning plan and are now sustaining this work on their campus. Cohort 3 specifically has also demonstrated success in implementation with teaming models through our Arizona State University Next Education workforce. And this has provided additional support for cross-curricular coherence with the PBL structure in mind, and it's a recent additional professional learning support offered to the other cohorts. Cohorts 4 and 5 are currently engaged in our district's professional learning plan. And at this time, I'm going to pass over the presentation to Principal Fricker, who's going to share more about the implementation of PBL at Jim Bridger Middle School.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Ramona Fricker. So cohort 3 was asked to implement the team model. So 3 years ago, I attended the ASU workforce model, and I was very inspired by an elementary school that had removed all the walls and allowed students to walk freely between the teachers of when they needed the work. So I returned to work, and I found 3 teachers who were up for the challenge. We literally removed large air walls between 2 sets of classrooms and created large flexible learning areas. This allowed us to combine subjects like social studies and science in one room and English and reading in the other. We fostered collaborative, multi-teacher environments. One significant benefit was to reduce the reliance of substitute teachers at the time. Since the team had already had shared rosters and already had planned together, learning never stopped if a teacher was out. Right away, we saw an increase in assignment and assessment turn-in rates. More importantly, our students demonstrated higher satisfaction, improved teamwork, communication, and leadership skills, the exact skills desired by a Nevada learner. Our teaming model has evolved. Since then, we put social studies and science back into their old room, but our commitment to collaboration remains. All 3 grade levels now have a team model, and we work on cross-curricular projects throughout the year. This model also deepened learning connections. Teachers are no longer working in isolation, but they share cross-subject collaboration, planning, mentoring, and innovation. They are not alone, but working as a team to create projects where they share the role of experts and support each other's subject area. Students now also discuss subject matter across disciplines. What they hear in science is supported in social studies and perhaps written in English. This quickly reveals connections that were invisible in the traditional classroom model. We have been able to strengthen our partnerships with UNLV. I'm sorry, I did not. How do you click? Oh, that is mine. I'm sorry. We've been able to strengthen our partnerships with UNLV, increasing placements for pre-service teachers who benefit from supportive multi-teacher environments. Along with our efforts, project-based learning has greatly impacted our attendance. We've decreased our chronic absenteeism by over 24% in 2 years. The shift for our teaming and PBL model has yielded powerful, measurable results in our entire school community. We are seeing steady growth in both math and ELA proficiency, demonstrating the positive correlation between our instructional model and student achievement. We started with an inspiration and 3 brave teachers. Today, we have 24 PBL-trained teachers across all subjects and grades. We've proven that when teachers work together, their students quickly see the connections between subjects they never had before. We've created a culture where student support is collaboratively responsible. Our transformation is not complete. Our goal is to move beyond individual programs or projects to grade-level PBL projects, where every teacher completes the same integrated project for all students. My school is just one example of how PBL is changing how we teach and how students learn. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would be happy to answer questions. Again, great work here by all our principals and by the team.
I'm going to take trustees here first, and then Trustee Johnson, Trustee Henry, and Trustee Biasotti if you want to ask any questions. So any questions from the trustees here in the dais? Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. This is so exciting to see all this. I know I hear a lot from the community is CCSD tries to do one size fits all, and that's absolutely not true what we're doing here, and you guys are just leading the way with that, so I'm really excited to hear this. So I wanted to hear more about 2 of the projects, and I am a little biased. NECTA is like my favorite, so I'm sorry. But I do have a question. I'm sorry. And don't let any of the other schools know that, so. So, they're all my favorites. So, Western High School, Warrior Wednesday days, is it the teacher, you said there was a 90-minute time frame. What teachers are we using? Are you using like which teachers, are we just switching to math or wherever the student needs to be? What does that look like?
Trustee Dominguez, I appreciate the question. Obviously, to articulate this really intense model in 4 or 5 minutes was really hard to do, so I appreciate the clarity question. So in short, we have half of our teachers that teach warrior periods the first half of the day, and the other half of the teachers teach warrior periods the second half of the day. So when that flip is happening, the other group is doing their PLC, professional learning work. So kids have the opportunity for warrior periods all 6 classes of the day, but only half the teachers are available in each of those sections of time.
I see, that's really cool. That's a really interesting model. And so do you identify the students that might need a little more help, or it just evenly spreads out, I would think?
Yeah, it has worked out naturally. We were nervous early on, right? Because this is a first of its kind model. We're not aware of another one like it, certainly in our own district, but we looked nationally, couldn't find anything similar as well. So we thought, wow, what if the numbers actually don't work to be 60%? Because we knew 60% was the sweet spot in terms of having space in classrooms and being able to really target instruction, right? You know that classrooms in high schools tend to be 30 to 35. You cannot target 30 to 35 kids in 6 periods, but you can target 10 in 3. And so it has just worked out very naturally based off of our short cycle assessment data. So again, those warrior periods look unique every single Wednesday. And the teachers do have the ability to look at the data and assign kids, so they can also manage the number of kids that are assigned each period.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. And my next question is for Principal Cordia. I could go on and on about the program, but one of the questions I have is, do any of the students ever change, what direction they want to go into? And or do they feel locked in, to select, to go be a boat operator, or go be an engineer, or whatever it is?
All right. Thank you, Trustee Dominguez. And Northeast is my favorite school also, for the record. Students apply to our school in 8th grade into one of our 10 career pathways. And there's multiple philosophies on career tech education. One of them is to explore and get as much exposure as possible to different things, to find likes and dislikes. I subscribe to a different philosophy that I want you to go 4 years into one skill so that you're competitively hireable against adults, and if life changes directions at any point, you can generate revenue for yourself. So our students cannot change their career pathway, but they can change their leaf any day. And that's on the back of all their IDs too. So this is a culture of our school that we talk about what is their first professional job, not their forever career, just what's your first job. And most of them change every month or so in the freshman year, and then by junior year it's pretty locked in, and that allows us to find strategic partnerships senior year so they can either shorten the timeline to a level 3 job by dual enrollment in AP courses, or get straight to work if it's a level 1 or 2 job.
That's really awesome. Thank you. And then my last question was for, I think it was Principal Fricker, if I said that correctly. So could you give me an example? I'm really interested to hear what what would the project be?
So we just finished our 6th grade class, their science and English class. So they had been learning about metabolism, and then they align, all of our projects are aligned also with the Tier 1 instructional materials that the district does. So there might be a story or some writing. So they had just finished about metabolism and also about emergency management, so they combined it, and they had to create an energy bar that would help emergency management as well as a patient. So they literally did create bars, and we had first responders came in, we had some people from CPD, and they had to taste them, they had to explain, they had to present their bars and talk about how they mixed the nuts and what they used to bind it. So it was science, but then also in English, and then they talked about how to present it. We just finished that last week.
Wow, that sounds really almost like master level stuff. So this is awesome.
Sixth grade.
Thank you. Well, yeah, no, this is 6th grade, but it sounds like something you do is like in masters. So I really appreciate the presentation, and hopefully we can just expand this to every school to do something like this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Trustee Stevens.
you guys are so well dressed. Like I just have to say that. This was great. I love this presentation. I got really excited when I saw, ooh, pilot programs, love pilot programs. I just have two questions. One is about the flexible pace mastery blend over on page, page is it 4, I think it is, yeah. So you talked about EQ learning, which I think is super awesome. I think we all believe that our kids need a lot of that. So my question is, what are you using for this? Like, is there a specific curriculum? Do you have a third party? Are the teachers creating it? Where are they getting this, this EQ information that they are now teaching to the kids? What does that look like?
Thank you, Trustee Stevens. This is awkward on the record. So the social emotional approved curriculums have evolved since we've opened. We're using Rethink Ed, which is a partner we pay for the social emotional learning in years 1 and 2. And then we're creating lessons inspired by Emotional Intelligence 2.0. We do not have an official partnership with that organization yet, but we do have conversations with them as to how to take their professional EQ training that they do for adults out in business sector to bring to our students.
What
So our
is that one
counselors,
called?
Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Cool. Okay. Has there been feedback, like from the kids, or especially from the educators who are doing this?
Yeah,
with
no one
them?
wants to do it, but in the end,
Really?
it works. Yeah, so
Oh,
we're like,
man.
who wants to do extra lessons inside their courses? It's an ask, and our career teachers own the career coaching model. Our core teachers started the flex pace, and now that's spread to everybody. And our elective teachers own the social, emotional, and emotional intelligence work. And so in the beginning, it was just one more duty, but now that we've seen the growth in students using I statements and care for each other and smiles and reduction in referrals, like now we're all bought in. So it took a minute to get everyone on board with this work, but it's working, and the students there's just love and happiness, and it's cool. It's a program that I'd recommend to anyone who's looking to grow leadership skills as my driver for this. So they have vertical promotion possibilities in their setting after high school, but in the end, it's really created a nice family community at our school.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. It's interesting, you know, sometimes we'll talk to people in the community, especially like large employer groups like MV Energy, for example. And I've heard them say things like, man, we just really wish that, you know, our folks coming out of high school that we're trying to hire, that they understand that they have to show up on time, that they have to be respectful, like things like that. So the fact that you're implementing this and these behaviors in the curriculum is fantastic. I just love that. So thank you.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Trustee Stevens, thanks for opening the door to a couple more talking points. So just to nail that down, we agree that the professional skills that employers are demanding are not necessarily what we're measured on NSPF or even NEPF. So to satisfy those needs and make sure those skills are robust, we create standard rubrics for our summative tasks, where half the rubric score is based on content knowledge, the other half is on professional skills. So the use of tools, teamwork, collaboration, and problem solving. So they're getting scored on that in every course, every unit. They're getting half of their summative score based on professional strategies. And then I just want to make sure I don't get off the mic here before I give Antonio another shout out, but his Western Wednesday inspired our school to now, for senior year this year, second semester, our seniors are going to be having the option to flex their pace, and if they can go quicker and finish their third quarter work in 8 weeks instead of 9, now that 9th week they'll be leaving to learn. So they've finished all their obligations for our school. Now they have opportunity to go chase their leaf and either do something professionally in the community or with an NSHE partner to shadow a law student or a med student or do something. So because they can flex slower or faster, it now opens access because of the work Antonio's done. Now our students are getting an opportunity to do something that they've earned.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I love that.
Awesome. Trustee Satori.
Oh, I had one more question.
Oh, I thought you said 2.
I did,
I'm sorry,
but
3.
it was a conversation.
going.
I apologize.
Keep
Forgive me.
going.
I'll make it quick, super easy. So page 9, the PBL with Jim Bridger. I'm super interested in one little section I saw. I just wanted a little clarification on the attendance improvement. When I look at these numbers, what exactly am I looking at? I just see 2023 40% and in 2025 16.9%. Is that
That would be our chronic absenteeism rate.
Okay, so that's absenteeism.
So along with other initiatives that we've done, but kids are excited to be here. They love the projects. We literally had a math teacher who did some bridge building the last week, which, you know, that last day, Monday, when we went back this year, and most kids didn't come, and she did, not a single kid missed. They wanted to test their bridges. It was that important. So they made sure, I mean, they just, so we've seen it. They want to come. They want to be a part of something, especially when we're presenting to the public. Like the fact that we had all these first responders eating their bars last week, that kind of just, they're like, oh, so people are coming in and they're really going to be here and we have to present to public. So our kids are loving that part of it. And they're
That's
part
amazing.
of big teams, so they're coming to school.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Satori.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation. I love hearing innovative ideas, and I appreciate you thinking outside of the box to best meet the needs of your students. It's fantastic. And so my question, first about project-based learning. I wanted to know a little bit more about what characterizes the gold standard project. So kind of what makes something a gold standard, and then how are projects selected or assigned, like who determines those?
Thank you for the question. Trustee Satori, there are several elements of gold standard PBL, including student voice, driving question, standard alignment, several different elements that teachers work through in the planning process. Students are involved in also that process of generating questions that lead the project, oftentimes leading in a public product like Ramona has shared about, where students have more choice around what that looks like. So strong standard alignment, student choice and voice, the driving questions, those are all gold standard projects. We also have rubrics, and we do classroom walks to help them make sure that they're elevating the projects and building on the design so that it doesn't become like a project not aligned to standards, that it's like really a rigorous, student-centered inquiry model.
And then what is the selection process for the projects? that
Yes,
they do?
sorry. So it starts with the standards and their professional learning communities, and teachers really have the discretion around how the products are chosen,
So it can
how
look
they
different,
align.
different grade
Exactly.
levels and
So
such on one campus. Okay.
every school has taken it a different way. Every grade level has taken it away, and it really starts with student interest.
Okay, excellent. And then my next question was for Principal Cordia. When, I think you mentioned like 10 career pathways or so, how were those selected? What kind of partnerships did you have initially in getting those set up, and how have they changed along the way, and how did those partnerships kind of drive what you're doing?
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Trustee Story. So the 10 programs were, the school was designed around those. So when I became principal, those were there. But the process I go through every year is to look at 3 items. Do we have students who want these programs? Do we have a good teacher for those programs, and are there jobs in Southern Nevada? And if all 3 are yes, the program is strong and we continue. And if any one of those is a no, then we need to prune, morph, add students, reduce students, whatever makes sense for our Southern Nevada community.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
I am not sorry for being the one to ask for this. I agree with Trustee Dominguez that we need to shine a light on such greatness that is within our system. I want to say the words that I heard from all of your presentation, mixed in is the why, the joy. I heard authentic learning, I heard self-pacing, choice, collaboration, but I also heard structures and systems that are definitely evident. Really, I have 1,000 questions, but we do not have enough time for that. So I want to thank you all, but I do have one for you to each respond to. It takes a lot of risk to do what you did, and you are risk takers as leaders. So I would love to know, what is it that you would advise for the next leader to take that risk, to want to jump and leap, and how, second part, A, that's A, here's B, what can we do to support your next level as a leader, as a risk taker? So that's it. That's all I'm going to ask you each. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Esparza. I'll begin the response to that question with really the root of what drove us. And the phrase I use with my staff all the time at Western before we really embarked about reimagining education was this. Oftentimes, education, we speak about the idea that we believe children can. And the question I started to ask our staff was, do we have the structures that match that belief? Bottom line. do we have the structures that match that belief? And we really started to look at all of our data, the historic challenges that the community at Western High School has faced, and we just started to look at what was working and what was not working. And there was a long list of things that were not working. And so we literally spent hundreds of hours, first of all, going through the data, looking at our students, our profiles, looking at the 8-period structure, which we had previously. And day by day, we got to this point where we said, you know what, we need something completely different. And the reality is we had a student population that, again, not a genius gap, an opportunity gap. They needed the space to catch up their academic gaps that they have. And so we had to figure out how to build that in. And it just was an evolving conversation where we finally got to the point where we were like, wow, if we blow this up, go to a 6-period schedule where we actually added time in the instructional periods by going to 6 periods and looked at a completely different model, we could reach the kids right where they're at and push kids to where they should be at the same time. So to answer the question, what you can do about this and how to support this, one, it's having the region leadership that we have had, we're all in the same region, to support and empower the thinking to say, you know what, we're not afraid to try something different and do something different to elevate the children in front of us. I think that was step one in the conversation. And the next thing is the support that we have had along this way has been absolutely tremendous from CCSD from the get-go. Ryan and I did this presentation together a little over 2 years ago, you remember, when we were here then. And the support from CCSD team was terrific from day one to allow us to do it, to think differently and come around us, to think through where we might fall short and not thought of in terms of systemic challenges overall. I want to add one final point to this, and that is the innovation that we were allowed to step into and take those risks has really spread. And Ryan shared the fact that some of the stuff that we've done at Western has influenced his model. It is also vice versa. I've spent a lot of time on his campus and him on my campus where we have a Flex Academy model within our campus that looks like a microcosm of what's happening in his campus overall. And we continue to learn from one another through that process. And so creating the pathway and the flexibility to do that, having the support from leadership overall, but also challenging leaders to say, hey, we know our kids can, what are we going to do about it?
Thank you for the giant question. I'm reminded of a quote by Zig Ziglar that you go as far as you can, you go as far as you can see, then you can see a little further. So my advice to every leader is just start walking. And as soon as you start walking, you'll be able to see where you need to go next. And you're not going to have every answer. You're going to put the best systems in place that you think you've thought of, and then they're not going to be very good, and you're going to evolve them as you get data. And so there's no one going to do it for you. My advice is just start walking, take a step, and then pivot as you need. And the challenges and changes get smaller the further you go. So year 3 feels a heck of a lot better than year 1 and 2. And then the second part of the question for your support is for anyone who's starting this, it's not easy and it's not going to work well in the beginning. So just any kind of cover you can give principals and staff members who have poor data to begin with, because it's not going to be an efficient, clean system. So just some cover on like the data is going to dip for a minute before it gets better. And there's going to be some mad parents and there's going to be some mad people that think this is a terrible thing and we're not helping. And so just give a little bit of space to run the course. And then I also want to echo Antonio and shout out all the support I've had from internal CCSD, that sometimes there's a narrative that we don't support innovation, but every department I've worked with, including the school board, has been extremely supportive as long as I had a good why and a clean system, and they came back with, okay, let's find a way together. So even innovation as of this semester, we're changing grade books and Infinite Campus has been a huge lift, and it took lots of departments, but everybody wants to say yes as long as I can justify why it's good for kids. The system has been supportive in all those things. So continue that, please.
Thank you for the question. I was similar to what Ryan was saying, is just, walk forwards, opt in to the opportunities. But taking a little further is just, really expanding your network of school leaders. We have some of the most incredible leaders. This pilot project is just one example of the 38 that I've had the opportunity to work with, and the way that they have scaled has all looked different across their campus, and it just took a little bit of risk, and they didn't need to be ready with the whole staff on board. They just started with a little bit of an idea, and then the other teams supported the innovation. And so just taking that risk, opening up your school to allowing others to give you a different perspective, I think really is a big leap. What you can do is just continue to stay curious about the project. They do need a soft landing when they're starting this work. It is very significant work that they're doing. The educators need that soft landing as well as the principals. And when we give them that time, that support, and remove the barriers for them, they can do incredible things for their students. So thank you.
All right, so why take the risk? I have a minority-majority school, and a lot of our students wouldn't talk. They talk to each other, but when it comes to WIDA testing, they freeze up, they won't speak, they don't listen. So we knew we had to do something different. And so when I was in Phoenix and I saw these classrooms, and what it really inspired me was how happy the teachers were. This was also 2 years ago when I had over 17 long-term subs. I only had one actual math teacher at the time after the pandemic, and we needed to do something different. So when I saw how happy teachers were, we came back and I surveyed my staff. I only had 3 teachers that said I'd do it. Everyone else said, nope, not gonna do it. And what we did is we inspired the rest to want to do it. Once you get students talking and they were excited about turning in their work, which we never had at the time, and teachers were frustrated. They're like, I know they know how to do it, they just won't take the test. We know they know how to do it, they won't turn in the work. These kids were turning in the work. And so had I said, we're a PBL school, everyone's doing a project, it would not have looked like it does today. Now what we did is we showed them, when we started small, we started with one teeny tiny 7th grade team, we moved to 6th grade, and this year is our first year with 8th grade. I now have only one sub on my campus. And I will say, when I said I strengthened my relationship with UNLV, they call me. Can you take more? Can you take more? Can you put them with there? And so out of all my pre-service teachers, every single student teacher that has come to Bridger is now a teacher. Every one of those long-term subs are now a teacher. We've worked with ARL, we did whatever we could. And that's because they didn't have to teach alone. They had this team of teachers, we're very collaborative. No one fails on my campus. If you don't know how to do science, ask the social studies teacher. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but they would talk to each other. And so kids would also, they didn't just leave a classroom and go, I'm done with science, now I got to put on my social studies hat. Because they're like, but I have a question. They can answer those questions. So our kids started talking about learning, not just subjects. And so really, we have to just inspire leaders to do the same thing. It's going to be messy. When I say capital P on pilot, we switched. And I met with them every week, every Friday. The team, they came in early. They had to come in at 6:30. We talked about what are we going to do next week. And it was, yeah, when you say pilot programs. So give them the grace to allow them to get out of the messy middle and get it to work. And I have a very happy staff, and we're excited about where we're going. But really just, and I think the support from CCSD, they allowed us, they bought furniture for our giant collaborative areas. I'm meeting with North Las Vegas about a grant. So there's so many partners out there that want our kids to be successful. So just be patient with our leaders and just inspire them to do something different.
Awesome, thank you. Trustee Cavazos, and then Trustee Johnson and Henry and Biasotti. I have Trustee Cavazos and then Vice President Zamora, and then we'll switch to you.
Thank you, Madam President. Wow, not only are you guys well-dressed, as my colleague pointed out, but you bring the passion. You bring the passion that fits right in with some of our core goals, and you have so much enthusiasm and energy. And I know what kind of schedules you have, so I'm amazed every time. I have a gazillion questions like Ramona, but I'm going to try to cut this down because I know other people want to ask. And Principal Fricker, you just kind of gave me a kind of a great segue right here when you were talking about, you know, the kids wanting to turn in their work. Was there any kind of a challenge when you started out with those 3, shall we say, magical teachers that accepted your challenge? Was there anything when you took down those walls? Was there any kind of challenge you had to overcome?
You know, yes, we put 85 kids in one giant area, and then we realized, no, we need to split that up. The challenge, what was interesting was that students started feeling special. We get to be in the big room. We also mixed CC students, general ed, and accelerated students. And when you mix them, you don't know who they are. And they didn't either. So they just knew that they got to be a part of something different. Like, again, there was only 85 kids in that first, so we just grabbed them. We didn't look at scores. We just said, okay, that looks like it might fit. If they didn't have band that period, it worked. So what was interesting is the relationships for that 7th grade team, then when they went into 8th grade, they didn't normally maybe mix, and they worked. And they were all very passionate about, and they were helpful, and they were collaborative. So, but I think, again, it's just, the only thing was the space, and we only have 2 classes like that. Now what we've done is the entire 8th grade English department goes into those big areas, and then I have one of 6th grade. So it's one single subject, but again, accelerated with regular, so you don't know, and they are all just everywhere. So it was a little messy, but the kids felt special, and they still do. Now the collaborative areas also in the afternoon are used for anybody's classroom. So now anybody can go in there, and they all get to do subjects.
I love that. Thank you so much for elaborating on that. Dr. Ellis, you get a pass here because Trustee Satori asked my question that had to do about the project. Big fan of the PBL anyway. Principal Cordia, I wanted to ask you where you kept saying we have to get out of the kids' way. I love that because it's basically letting them find their own path with the guidance and everything. So when you talked about getting out of the kids' way and basically meeting the kids where they are, and you also talked about recognizing our teachers as professionals. Is there some kind of example you can give that's a favorite of yours or just something that you did at your school where you just really emphasized seeing your teachers as professionals?
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. And so there's lunches, there's donuts, there's high fives, there's congratulations, but what works the best is success, and self-efficacy is contagious to collective efficacy. So whenever we share, like just now, I got the data from our PSAT scores that it's up 50 points over the last 3 years, and our MAP data and our ability on ACT to outperform national average, it's a whole village for all those things. And so when we just look at them and say, like, it takes 720 days from every member on the staff to get to this moment, that's what lands with them. And so just feeling successful after they walked uphill and rode upstream, and whatever metaphor you want to use, it's extremely challenging until you see that student who now has access to a future they didn't know even existed 3 years ago. That's what works. So we highlight the student success, that they've been accepted to high-skilled jobs and to colleges that really didn't have a chance until they did the work at our school.
Thank you so much, and I really admire what you and Principal Raul were talking about as far as your collaborative, and I guess you guys are bouncing back and forth between each other's campuses. And I was getting ready to ask if what Principal Raul had done, if that had inspired any of the rest of you, and then you answered the question already, and obviously it did. So, Principal Raul, the only question I had for you was, when you started this, what was when you started these Wednesdays, these Opportunity Wednesdays, what was your initial goal at that time, like your seed at that, for want of a better word?
Thank you, Trustee Cavazos. I should say this, at the starting point, the first time I did this Wednesdays, I was scared to death because I didn't know how it actually was going to execute out, right? We had this beautiful idea, we had a plan that we'd spent time doing, but that day one, back to your question, right? Day one, we're like, wow, what if this thing flops? What if the kids don't show up to school? Like, right? I mean, they have this very flexible schedule. And so, but the ultimate goal was this, and I've used this phrase a couple times now in terms of meeting kids where they're at and elevating them to the ability to they're capable of achieving at. We believe strongly at Western High School that our kids can perform at and outperform students in the suburban ring. We believe that they can. And so my ultimate goal was to elevate them to that level. And Ms. Tomlinson would tell you this, that when we look at Western's data, we always pull up the suburban ring and look how those schools are performing, because we know that at the end of the day, our kids will have to compete with kids all over this valley and across the state, no matter where they're from or what their community looks like, to compete for the best jobs and for the scholarships overall. Inside of that, we adopted a phrase at Western High School that I love. It's on the back of many of our T-shirts for student council, and that is, why not us? And so that phrase really symbolizes the idea of Warrior Opportunity Wednesdays. Why not us? Why can't we achieve at the highest level possible? We have kids and families that are great and are capable in front of really great professionals, so why not us?
Thank you so much. And that's what you were referring to when you said opportunity cap. I really love that. I really appreciate your candor in saying that you were scared to death, because I think a lot of times a lot of us are afraid to say as we start on something that's very innovative that we're scared to death. But somebody else said, was it Dr. Ellis, if you don't start walking, if you don't, or maybe it's Principal Cordia, one of you, all of you guys are a team. But thank you so much for this presentation. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. I want to start off with thank you for finding solutions, right? Because there is so many problems we see, but you all taking that step, I'm really thankful. Principal Ryle, I've been in awe of the work you have done in multiple schools. I missed you by 1 year at Mojave, but I remember that change, and my siblings got to benefit from those changes you made at the Mojave High School. I have one question for our principals, and it is, was there any type of extra cost to start this program in your schools? Because I don't want for those schools who would want to be interested be kind of saying, well, we're going to be expensive. Like, can we be a little bit more realistic if the cost and what were those costs?
I can go ahead and start, because CCSD actually trained my first 24 teachers, and I still have half of my staff that needs to be trained in. So the cost to be a certified PBL teacher for 101 is about $599 to take an online course. We are actually in conversations about perhaps getting other cohort teachers that still have, or schools that may need their teachers to also get trained. It would cost about $14,000 for them to come out for about 35 teachers. So we're talking to other schools about maybe splitting that cost. But there is a cost to be certified for PBL works.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Zamora. We do, as the district with the pilot project, we have funded 2 years of professional learning to train the leadership teams and the teachers. We provide 2 sessions in December and then in June to train as many teachers as we can for them over the 2 years so that they can support sustainability on their campus. But we do the initial training and pay for that with federal funding.
Trustee Zamora, there is a small cost, but I don't think it would, I'm able to handle it with just a regular strategic budget. So the career tree training, we pay a vendor for that. We pay a vendor for Modern Classroom Project is who helps us with flexible pace mastery learning. So our teachers go through an onboarding session with them, and then we pay for the Rethink Social Emotional Learning. And then I pay for substitutes for teachers to have time to develop common units and assessments. So those vendors do have a cost, but it's manageable within our current budget.
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Thank you for the encouragement as well. The only real cost in our model has been the human capital. We haven't had to spend money on programs or any of those things of that nature, but it has been the human capital. When we started this process, we met with district leads across the board to figure out how we needed to, one, do a distance learning plan because our model looked different, how we had to open up Infinite Campus. We have a whole nother type of Infinite Campus called responsive scheduling that was unique. Our district had to get trained on how to facilitate that program and then teach us how to use the program. So it was just really the work inside of our own system, but no additional costs outside of that.
Thank you for that. My second question is for our team. Do we have any data if like a student was to leave one of our cohort schools and follow them through, kind of any type of follow-up if, you know, there's a drop in attendance, if there's a drop in their grades? Because I think that would be interesting to see, like if, you know, something happens, they have to leave Bridger and they go to another school that doesn't have any type of program, kind of so we can, you know, beef up the reasoning why this is so great.
No, very interesting question, and I imagine probably less so with Northeast because it being a CTA, with probably not too many students leaving there. Of course, they push this button. I'm like, uh-oh. But yeah, it's certainly something we could look at. I mean, it would take some pretty deep look at the data on something like that. But yeah, it would be a very interesting point to be able to pull. And I mean, I think when you look even just overall at, you know, the data that's coming out of those schools, I think what you see is that there's some very positive impacts. So you could certainly infer when you're comparing to the general population of all of our schools across the district that there's obviously some very unique things happening at these schools.
Thank you. And then the last one is, if we have another update meeting, I would love to see the elementary kind of level and what they're doing, because I know middle school and high school are completely different, right? The kids are used to kind of just being separated and going class to class, but in elementary school level, I'll be very curious to see how they're working through it and how the students, being a little bit younger, deal with everything. Thank you.
Trustee Johnson, any questions from you?
Yeah, I do. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I wanted to understand how each of you are codifying this so that after you and your architect crew are gone from the school, the system outlasts you.
Trustee Johnson, this is Antonio Rael from Western. I appreciate the question. We took a really intentional approach as we rolled through this process of having the opportunity to lead turnaround schools in the past and knowing opportunities that I learned from how to endure structures and systems beyond my own time there. We built this with the teachers doing the talking and doing the leading. We built their capacity. So, for example, through our process, as we were building the model and with our instructional leadership team, which is our department chairs and administrators, we met with our staff, collective staff, about every 6 weeks. And we did what we called fireside chats. And we used a picture of the Durango casino being built and kind of like their progress and our progress side by side, so they kind of understood how we were building the model, what have you. But in every one of those meetings, I and the administrative team did not lead the conversation. It was our department chairs standing in front of our staff and explaining what we were doing, how they were leading the subcommittees, and walking through the process so they know it was teacher-led all the way through. At the end of all those conversations is when the questions were fired at. I would typically take the bulk of those questions, but it was teacher-led from day one. They built it. They shared it with all of our staff. And through the entire process, when we do updates typically every semester on how we're going with the model. We meet every semester too to look at revisions going forward. It's always been teacher-led with the idea that they can do it with or without me, obviously being the objective long-term. But that's how we did it.
Thank Trustee Ryan Cordia for the record. Similar response for Northeast Career Tech is that I was the first and only employee, and then we hired a leadership team, and then we hired 60 staff members year one, and then 30 more staff year two, and then 30 more staff year three. So the onboarding has been continuous, and that's a culture building that I wasn't anticipating being so hard, is that we were going to be strangers with everybody year one, half the staff year two, and half the students year two, and then a third of the staff and students year three. So as we've built this, it's been fully intentional on this being shared leadership, that we have department leaders and we have staff members reporting to us weekly in the first year, as Ramona mentioned, and then monthly now as our problems are getting a little tighter. And so that evolution is evident now, and the fact that whenever we have conversations, it's no longer Ryan's plan or this Northeast way, it's our way, and the teachers own that part. So as I've seen hiring over the last couple of years, it's transitioned from this is how Ryan wants it done to this is how we do work. And then we had a bunch of teachers build the playbook out for us. So now we have pedagogy that's locked in as we know best practice. And even cooler than all that is students now report to us that if there's a teacher who's not getting their tier one small groups done efficiently enough, or if their teachers don't have the units ahead so they can move faster, the students report to us directly what the system should look like and what teacher is doing well and what teacher needs a little more help from us. So I think that the student buy-in is the last piece, and they will continue this forward after all of our names change.
Thank you for
Thanks.
the question. Oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. Our implementation plan for PBL as a pilot is set up for sustainability. So the professional learning starts in year one with building teacher capacity and moves into a sustainability plan in year two. So the structure of the professional learning is that. So we have been keeping track of the schools, keeping them engaged through our PBL showcases, and trying to keep the network alive of the schools that have finished the professional learning plan and moved into their own sustainability, as Ramona referred to as like trying to figure out how do we continue to support them and be creative about what that support looks like. One of the new things that we have focused on specifically around sustainability is after year two, what we've noticed from our pilot schools is that they really have implemented it in a different way than cohort 3 has, because they started out with a teaming model. So they naturally moved into cross-curricular coherence, which was very natural for them, and our other schools didn't have that. And so that's the direction that they're moving. So we've built out a stronger partnership with Arizona State University's Next Education Workforce to build in professional learning around the teaming structure so they can continue to build their project-based learning across the curriculum.
Ramona Fricker here. I think for sustainability, PBL is just student-led instruction, and it's kind of the future. Students want to talk about it. They're not being isolated, alone. They're working with teams. It's everything that we're asking them to do, collaborate, use innovation, creativity. And so our teachers are doing the same thing. So whether I was there, it would continue. I don't think our students could go back to a traditional classroom and be all by themselves and just talk about one subject at a time. My teachers are very collaborative, and so again, we've gradually released it to our students and to our parents. Even expect to have my weekly note. They want to know what each team is doing, what projects are going up, what topics we're talking about each week, and so those are the expectations, and I don't see that going away, depending on who's in my seat.
And then the last one thing I had, you all could just, aside from any of the state mandated quantitative data that's required to show academic progress, are you all using any additional quantitative data to name your progress? So Principal Royale, I heard your data that you use, you measured it against so the qualifying scores for AP courses or the number of students who are now taking AP courses. Is anyone else using additional quantitative data to mark your success so that you can highlight your progress with the evidence, with this or that type of evidence?
Trustee Johnson, this is Antonio Rael again from Western. Just a quick note on our side, while we certainly are looking at the normal standardized data, one of our greatest indicators is actually teacher attendance. On any given Wednesday, it is rare for us to have a teacher out. And then throughout the given days, Monday through Friday, for example, this week, I think we had 4 teachers out of 150 out on Monday and Tuesday. It is a very low percentage. Teachers are happy in the work. And the other part of that is, I don't know when the last time this was the case at Western High School, but we're fully staffed. We're fully staffed. Every licensed position has a licensed teacher. And I think those indicators in terms of attendance and staffing are big wins and things we look at for sure.
This is Ryan Cordia for the record. So thank you for the question. I was waiting for someone to ask, is it working? And I'll get to quantitative next, but I think qualitative is where the good stuff is. So every student on our campus can speak intelligently about their future ambitions and with pride, because we see those students as individuals. So they see us asking that question, what's your leaf, is who are you? And how can I help you become the professional version of the person you see? Everyone, because they're doing discourse in every unit and every course, can speak, look people in the eye, carry themselves with their shoulders back, and every guest that comes up is pretty impressed with how well-spoken our even freshmen are as they come through our campus. We have agency on campus where students use I statements, and that stands out from the last schools that I've been at. Is every student will speak with, this is where I'm at in the unit, this is what I need to do, this is when I will get caught up, and they take complete ownership of their progress through each unit. And there's just a ton of smiles. It's just a nice place to work and learn. But the quantitative piece, of course, we're looking at all the grades and transcript data. That's what took 2 years of sleep away from me, is seeing that we were going slow and not well in the beginning, and now we're catching back up. Chronic absenteeism is another regular data point, and that's dropped by over 50%. ACT is measured regularly, but we did come out showing that this model is causing learning by beating the national, state, and district average. And then some data points that like Antonio mentioned, are retention. So to your point earlier, trustee, that the students that leave, in the beginning, a lot of students left because this isn't what they signed up for, and they didn't know what they were signing up for. But now they don't. And now we've got 2,000 students applying for 500 seats. So the word in the community is out that this is a desirable place to go to school. 93% of the students stay and come back the following year. 90% of staff stay or retire. And then behavior is down to almost nothing. 100% of our students are enrolled in the CTE program for 4 years. And 100% of our students are on track with a plan for graduation this year. And our ninth grade sufficiency is up from 80 to 95% after 2 years. So the more we've run the system, the more we've seen every data point increase. But the real magic is when you meet our students and you talk to them. So come out and visit, and you'll know exactly what's going on in Northeast.
I also agree, but our students do take a survey through PBL Works. We had to take a survey at the start before they started any projects, and then we did the same survey. And it was questions like, how do you like collaborate? Do you feel better? Do you feel more comfortable speaking? And we've also noticed an increase in our CCSD survey where students, one of the ones that we were really low is that students wouldn't take a risk. If they didn't know the answer, they wouldn't do it. They would never raise their hand. They weren't comfortable in certain situations. And we've seen a huge increase in those areas where students are okay. And it even says they can do hard things. And they don't have to have the answers, but they know where to get them. So we have seen just satisfaction in where students feel more confident, speaking, listening, reading, writing, all of those things that are really important to our students. They're a lot more confident, and you can see it throughout our district, our campus.
Awesome, thank you. Trustee Henry. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Madam President. I don't have any questions. I do want to just say kudos and thank you all for the hard work that you've been doing and just sharing that it is working and it is working. But I love most the cross collaborations across the schools, you know? I think that that's important that you all are working with one another to make sure and ensure that you're successful. So thank you.
Thank you. And I know Trustee Biasotti, I don't think that you had any questions. We had worked it out. So I had one question, and then I know Trustee Satori still had one. So Dr. Welsh, I know that we're looking at Region 3 schools, but I noticed on the list, at least the project-based learning ones, there's other schools in other regions. Are there any models in other regions like Mr. Cordia and the gentleman from Western?
Yeah, Antonio.
Sorry. Antonio, yes.
Yeah, thank you, President Bustamante Adams. Yeah, so these are all schools in Region 1 within the district. We currently don't have, I don't know if anybody has models similar to that. I will say specifically when we talk about competency-based learning, I mean, that is an area that we are looking to expand in particular. You know, when you think about the portrait of a learner and how that applies to our students, I think it ties in very nicely there, especially when you think about the ability of students to really learn at their own pace. That's something we're working on, and I know that's like some of the pieces that we're trying to work through even still through Infinite Campus, because that's also one of the challenges within the system is that a lot of the systems and structures, not just within Clark County, but in education in general, are not well designed for some of these things. And so in some of those instances, we have to be able to work either within our systems or figure out how we can adapt our systems to accommodate that. So like, you know, in the case of that competency-based learning, you know, we had to be able to find a way within Infinite Campus to be able to issue grades at different times depending upon when students are actually completing the work. So yeah, it's possible. And, you know, big thanks to Principal Cordia for being on the bleeding edge of that, because he's literally doing some of that work that I think is going to help pave the way for other schools to be able to then follow. So similar kind of thing, like, yeah, I think to that point, that is really the intent and thought behind some of those pilot programs, is to be able to work out some of the things that are more challenging and then to be able to replicate then and expand, you know, without everyone else necessarily having to experience some of the pain points that I'm sure all the folks up here have had to deal with that. Interestingly enough, too, I was out at some schools earlier today. I was at one of our schools that's also part of the PBL down in Region 3, was actually at Silvestri, and they talked about not just that, but one of the other pieces that I found very interesting was, and it kind of ties into one of the questions earlier, and that is having our principals to feel more comfortable with taking risks. You know, and like you hear that from from everyone that's up here, but being willing to take a risk because, yeah, there might be in the short term some things that you have to figure out, but in long range, you're going to get better outcomes. And so encouraging our leaders to be willing to take those risks on behalf of students. I mean, I think you heard that from everybody, is that when, I think Ryan even said it, of, you know, when you say, hey, but it's going to be good for kids, everybody's willing to jump in line and say, okay, what can we do to get behind it? So helping to encourage our leaders to take risks on behalf of children.
Thank you. And then my other question is, legislatively, is there anything that prevents us from being innovative?
Not necessarily legislatively, but like, again, when I think about competency-based learning, one of the biggest challenges is, when you think about students graduating from high school, moving on to post-secondary institutions, those transcripts may look very different when you really get into true competency-based learning. And so trying to work with some of our entry partners in particular, as we do some of that work where a transcript may not look exactly the same when you're talking about really trying to capture competency-based learning. And so we know that's part of the work that we may have to engage in as well, so that, when they see something that doesn't necessarily look the same as what they're used to, making sure that it's not an impediment to our students being able to move forward in terms of, where they're at with our NSHE system.
Thank you so much. We have one more question from Trustee Satori, but then I'll ask our superintendent if she has any words to close this out. Trustee Satori.
The structures that are in place make it difficult.
Trustee Satori, could I ask you to turn your mic on? Sorry, thank you.
I just got excited because that was my question about with the flexible model with absenteeism, how it affects that. You did say the chronic absenteeism was going down, but I was like, how, if they have this flexibility, how are you handling all those structural issues?
Thanks for the question. I think Antonio solved most of the attendance concerns, and I've taken on the lion's share of the flexible grading. So in a traditional system, the grade window closes after 9 weeks, and then if a grade needs to be entered a day later, you have to do a grade change, and transcripts get involved, and it becomes intimidating. You start putting grades on transcripts, and if you put no mark or in progress, no one really knows what that means, and it's definitely a pain point. But then now we've got this figured out for any school going forward, that we have year-long courses, so if a student finishes a task January 5th, that can still go back into second quarter without any real, it just, the teacher puts it in like it was due on time. So our students can apply for up to a 4-week extension on each grading window. And so that gives them a 4-week buffer to work slower if they need it with more skills. And then now with this 9th week, they can go a week early to leave. And the attendance that Antonio's figured out is allowing us to do that. So the systems now are pretty friendly. It was
Yeah, getting there. Yeah. That's the key, to make it scalable. So thank you for doing that work to be able to scale it. How many more schools are going to be PBL? How many more are planned for the PBL?
Thank you for the question. Our project plan will allow up to 10 schools to join us. So we have like one school in year 2, or one group in year 2 and one cohort in year 1. And so as we like phase year 2 out, we'll add another group in. So that's the plan, is to add an additional 10 schools. So we invite them all to come out to our showcase in April. It'll be at Western High School actually this year. And schools share like their implementation and what that looks like. We invite all the cohorts to come and join us, and any schools that are interested in it also have the opportunity to do that, and then they can apply and solicit their interest at that time.
Would we be able to maybe attend that? That would be
Absolutely,
great to
yeah.
see. Yeah,
April
and actually that was
17th.
my other thought as well. I'd love to tour these. I'd love to have a tour set up, because especially I'd love to see that space in action. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Superintendent, would you like to close this out?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I couldn't be prouder of the people sitting at this table. I've known several of them for many, many years, and have watched them lead not only where they're at, but where they've been in the past too. So having the courage to always stay focused on our children. Number one, they've created the context and the why of the work. Then they set up the possibilities. They provided the support, right, rounding out for the teachers and for the students and the families, and they've obviously exceeded well beyond their wildest dreams. They are not only a Clark County School District model, but they're national and international models as well. I also would like to add that these amazing people before us are just a very small part of our school district, that we have others that are doing great work, and we absolutely, thank you again for asking us to provide this presentation. Would love to come back. I did want to jump in on the policy piece. The structure has been made available to the entire state of Nevada since 2015. It has taken this long for people to take advantage of the open doors, quite frankly, that we've had in Nevada for a very, very long time. But it is a job for those that are willing, and also, creating that space and providing supports, and then picking people up if they fail forward, which is what we want and we encourage.
Thank you so much. Let's just give a last round of applause. Thank you so much. This was not an action item, so no votes will be taken. We will now move on to 2.03, SWOT analysis of Community Engagement Unit.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert. For the record, Kirsten Sear, Chief Community Engagement Officer. And I am happy to be here with you tonight to share feedback that I received from a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is an analysis that Superintendent Ebert asked me to complete when I started my position in July. And before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that all of the directors from the Community Engagement Unit are here. And we have a very talented team with a huge amount of expertise. And so I am lucky to have each and every one of them as collaborators and colleagues, and I appreciate that they're in attendance tonight. So I'm going to start out with our current org chart because I have heard some questions about the structure of the Community Engagement Unit, which was formerly known as the Communications Unit. And we made a decision to rename it Community Engagement because it is so much more than just communications, which is very important. But we also handle much of CCSD's outward-facing engagement with families, with the media, with our community partners, other government agencies, and more. And so our unit is very critical in our mission to build trust throughout the community so we can become a destination district. So about the SWOT analysis, I conducted this analysis in July and August and presented my initial findings to Superintendent Ebert in time for the release of her 100-day plan. I interviewed more than 90 people, and these people represented a wide variety of perspectives from our community. We talked to families, to department heads, to people from schools, members of the media, some of our community partners, some of our government partners, and we deliberately chose people that we knew would have positive and negative feedback about the Clark County School District. And here's what I asked every interviewee. Which departments in the Community Engagement Unit have you worked with? What went well? What could be improved? And is there anything else you think I should know? And so this presentation is actually going to go in order of strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, because I want to end with opportunities, not with threats. So we're going to start with the identified strengths of the whole Community Engagement Unit. And I'm going to start out by saying that this was an omission, and I apologize, but every department is on here except for the marketing department. And that is not because they don't have strengths, it's because there was a mistake. So I'm going to start with marketing strengths. The marketing department, we heard widely, was really appreciated, especially for the projects that they've worked on. They've done some projects with the TIS department and with HR and with the magnet schools. And we heard overwhelmingly that they appreciated how strategic they were and how responsive they were. So I apologize again to the marketing department. They do have strengths. Media relations, which we have renamed communications because they do so much more than media relations, was consistently complimented for being supportive, especially during crisis situations, which happen around here quite a bit. The Community Engagement Department, which we are now back to calling the Partnership Office, which some people are very excited about. They work with our community partners, and they were recognized for building partnerships throughout our district, both with schools and departments, and expanding recognition of our students and employees. The Engagement and Events Department, and this is a typo too, it's now Events and Special Projects. We made a lot of changes, and they weren't all reflected in this last version. It's seen as very well organized and supportive of CCSD team members. So this is the team that does, like for example, we did the ribbon cutting this morning at Bridley Middle School. They do all of our events such as State of the Schools and the administrative kickoff. all of our school openings and the superintendent's honor roll that's coming up. Family engagement is celebrated for coming to schools to provide University of Family Learning classes, and people appreciate the Super Saturday events that they host as well. The Family Support Center was praised for providing resources like food, vaccinations, healthcare, legal aid. That's our building that's actually on Maryland Parkway. Government relations, people really loved how they communicated during the session. They felt very well informed during the session. Public Records Office was seen as very helpful and responsive. Team engagement, this is the group that does the Starlight Awards, the rave reviews, the service pins, and since I was last at CCSD, it's always been the joke that you get your 5-year service pin on your 10-year anniversary, and we really made an effort around that, and so that was recognized, which was nice to hear. And Vegas PBS also is viewed as an asset throughout our community for children and families. So I'm going to go over a few of the weaknesses and the way that I identified a weakness is if it was brought up multiple times. So even if it's not necessarily a weakness, it's perceived as a weakness, right? And so we need to have conversations about perceptions in our district and figure out about how we change those perceptions. So overall for the unit, there's a really strong desire for a clear org chart and better understanding of which department does what. And so I'll talk about how we're going to address that. There is a perception that departments within the units are siloed. There's an overwhelming call for a new CCSD website and for an intranet to provide information for employees, and also a widespread call for more consistent communications, and I'll get into that as well. Specifically for the communications department, which I noted was previously called media relations, I heard a lot of people saying that they want communications to position CCSD in an expert in areas where we excel. Like, for example, the principles we just heard about, how to promote the areas where we are doing very well, which we know there are a lot of areas where we're doing very well. There was an expression of need to bring back media training for leaders throughout CCSD. And there was some confusion, frankly, about some of our emergency protocols, which I know some of the trustees and I have had conversations about as well, so we'll talk about that soon. For events and special projects, I think I heard overwhelming positive remarks about this department. I do think that, like, for example, the Brindley Middle School ribbon cutting today, I think our principals are very sensitive when there's a lot of VIPs on their campus, and they would like even more support on how to figure out the politics of all of that. I heard that a few times, so we can beef that up. Family engagement and family support. So this is a big one that I heard a lot about. We have our Family Support Center on Maryland Parkway, which is wonderful and provides a lot of services to families. And then we have family engagement centers that currently operate out of a different department that focus more on academic support. And there was a lot of confusion over who did what and which schools could tap into which resources. So we're going to talk about that when we talk about the opportunities, but I just wanted to flag that was something that I heard quite a bit. Government relations, this was a really interesting conversation, and I think some of this has already been addressed with new leadership, but there definitely was a perception of contention between CCSD and our government agencies, and a perception that we were not cooperating with each other. And while people did say we did a great job of communicating during the legislative session what was going on, they did express that they'd like to see more communications as we're actually implementing the bills from the 2025 session. And overall, there was just a real expression of a desire to build deeper relationships throughout our community. Marketing, marketing is since I was last at CCSD, it's a very different department. And I think our leader of marketing would be the first to tell you that we haven't had a real North Star for that department. It's kind of been, a lot of things have been put in there and they've been kind of spread all over the place. And there's also, believe it or not, as we compete with charter schools, we do not have a dedicated advertising budget for CCSD. The superintendent asked me, one of my first weeks when I came back in July, do we have paid social media ads telling people to register for school? And I said, we don't have any money for ads. So in an age where we are competing with charter schools for students, we're going to talk about that in a minute too. But that is a weakness for the marketing department. partnership office, which again was called community engagement. We've had a lot of discussions about this, and I think we talked about this in one of our work sessions. We need to redo the protocols so it's easier for partners to figure out how to get into our schools, easier for schools to figure out how to connect with partners, and easier for us to give you a list of all the partners and what their goals are and if they've actually achieved those goals. So I think the office is great. They bring in millions of dollars worth of in-kind support a year, but we just need to put in a little bit more structure and protocols so that people understand how to get into the district and schools understand how they can connect with partners that meet their needs. Team engagement. I heard a lot of feedback on the Starlight Awards, the Evening of Excellence. Some people love that they get to dress up and go to this awards dinner. Some people find it very boring and long. So there's some discussion about the program format. And then it's these service pins. It's funny. It's just a part of CCSD culture. Everybody wants their service pins on time. So I think we've made progress on that, but I don't think we'll overcome that perception until we have a couple of years of timeliness in that area. And then public records, we haven't updated our public records policy in a while. Actually, I'm bringing an updated version to you in January we'll talk about. But I've had discussions with some of you as well. I don't think that there's clarity on when we charge and why, and so we need to bring an updated regulation to you. And, I'm sorry, I forgot. We also need to better train our staff on public records so that they understand how to comply with public records law. And with Vegas PBS, I just think that there's some confusion over what the relationship is between Vegas PBS and CCSD, and a desire to see more data showing how Vegas PBS benefits CCSD. So for threats, I think we can probably all agree that the biggest threat to CCSD in general right now is declining student enrollment. And we know that nationally, urban school districts are seeing drops in student enrollment, and it's for a few reasons. We know that it's because of lower birth rates. If you look at our senior class population versus our kindergarten population, it steadily decreases year by year. And we also know that there's increased choice and competition. I would say that the problem is also compounded by some other threats. We know that there's mixed public perception about CCSD. Our employees in general are very confused about where to find information, and I see a lot of that frustration play out on social media. I see a lot of community members not knowing where to go for information. There's obviously a concern about customer service and a perception that CCSD is a bureaucracy. So now we get to the fun part, the opportunities. So this is where I'm going to suggest some solutions on how we can address this. So I'm going to start with the unit as a whole. I mentioned that people would like to have a better sense of who does what and where they go for help. And so we are currently working on a community engagement unit manual that will outline what each department does and how you can contact that department for help. In terms of the communications department, I hope you've noticed that we are already posting more videos online, videos that frankly we've just been doing on our phones. And it's turned out to be very popular. It's a great way to get messaging out and not have to go through traditional media channels. You'll see that little logo, the slice. That is something that I found from the Orange County Public Schools that they have launched. It's actually a whole news page that is just a positive news hub. And it's something that I would really like to replicate as we're launching our new website so that there's one place where everybody can go to see positive news about CCSD. I hear a lot that, we need to put out more positive stories, and we do, and actually they get picked up. Just today, the media was picking up our news release about our 41 schools who are recognized for their excellence in implementing MTSS. But I feel like it sometimes gets overshadowed by other stories. And so the thought is, can you put it all in one place so that people can see all the wonderful things happening in CCSD? I also think, and I alluded to this in the weaknesses, that there's a concern about where to find information amongst families, employees, all sorts of folks. I see on social media that families are asking questions on different Facebook groups. And I think there's even sometimes a perception that we run those Facebook groups, even though we don't. Because I'll see someone post something and say, CCSD didn't even respond to my question. And those are not our Facebook groups, but it's very clear that there's an opportunity for us us to interact in a more formal way with our families online so that they have a place where they can go to get answers to their questions. For events and special projects, we are working to centralize all events into this department, all of the presentations for our events, all of the messaging around the events, and have one really clear, accurate CCSD master calendar, all operated out of this department, so that our messaging and events are all very cohesive, and it's very clear that we have one master calendar that people can plan around. So this is a pretty big change that we're proposing, which is that we take the family engagement centers, the 12 centers and schools around the county, and we combine them with the family support center and family engagement center that's located within it, and that they are all some sort of family support center. So they would all offer the academic support that our family engagement centers offer right now in schools, and then they would also, the school centers would be able to refer to the services in the family support center, the wraparound services. So that's legal services, help with translating transcripts, help with preparing college documents, right? There's all sorts of services that we offer at Family Support that for some reason there's a perception that those services aren't available district-wide. Or I heard a lot of people saying, I can't go from, Henderson all the way down to the Family Support Center. My families can't go there. So how can we provide more virtual services out in those school centers so that every family has access to that support? So that's a pretty big change that we're looking to make. So then what happens to family engagement, which currently runs the family engagement centers? They will continue to do the University of Family Learning and Super Saturday events that we do. But we've also asked them to take on the public concern form process and completely change the way that families express concerns to the Clark County School District. Right now we have the Let's Talk platform and the public concern form process. And frankly, it's not entirely clear on our website, if I'm a parent, where I go if I have a question or a concern. And then we kind of have these two parallel concern channels for them to express their concerns. And so I can understand why families are getting frustrated. And we think we want to create one communication channel and really clearly outline on the website, where do you go if you have a concern with your child's school? And so the Family Engagement Department will oversee that. Government relations, we've already presented to you that we have a plan to build relationships with our legislators and other elected officials year-round, especially as we prepare for our legislative agenda in 2027. And our hope is that we will have more shared agenda items with other community organizations entering into the 2027 legislative process. And you will hear, we've already told you that we've been collaborating with other municipalities about school traffic safety possibilities in the special session. And just expect more of that to come. We'll do more collaboration to benefit our students. Marketing, I have asked the marketing department, once we make all of these changes, to focus on 4 things, which is updating the website, which has not been updated since Superintendent Ebert was the Chief Technology Officer. And we're hoping that that rolls out in December. Helping schools market for open enrollment. So we are very far behind on helping schools create marketing plans for themselves. Other major urban school districts have helped schools create marketing plans. Orange County, for example, has 14 videographers that they use just to help schools make videos to market themselves. And right now we don't have anyone dedicated to that. And also, we need to think about one consistent platform that we use to communicate with families. Right now, and I'm sorry, I missed this in the weaknesses when we were talking about communication. There's 6 platforms that we currently use to communicate with families, in addition to ParentLink and email, right? And so if you have a kid in elementary school and a kid in middle school, you might have Class Dojo in one school and Parent Square in the other school. And, the night before a field trip, I don't know, this is a real world example, this just happened. You might be looking to see, this happened to my family, you might be looking to see what the kid needs for the field trip, and you're like, was that on email? Was that on Class Dojo? I don't remember. You're searching all the different things, you're looking through your texts, and you just want to know what lunch they're supposed to bring for their field trip, and it's very frustrating. So, I see a lot of nodding heads, but this is a conversation that we want to have about how can we move our district toward a more common communication platform for our parents. And then also, it's past time to have an intranet for our employees so they can find information in one location. And our new chief of technology told me that an intranet is already outdated. There's other things that people are doing. But when I say intranet, I mean one location people could go for information, because right now they don't have that, and it's very frustrating to our employees. For our partnership office, I went over this a fair amount, but we want to make sure that partners know how to get involved in schools, and schools know how to reach out to us to get partnerships that fill the needs that they have. And then I also wanted to highlight that we're working with the Public Education Foundation on a new CCSD alumni committee where we can better engage our alumni from throughout the community to serve as ambassadors for CCSD and help us spread the word about all the wonderful things that are happening. Public Records Department, as I said, we need to be really clear about when we charge for public records, and so we are bringing an updated regulation to you likely in January. Team engagement. So you saw that we launched the CCSD Cares customer service standards, which were based on, feedback from a group of employees, and we officially launched CCSD Cares on October 17th, and hopefully you are seeing CCSD Cares posters everywhere you go. And we will soon be rolling out other ways to support this, including tying our rave reviews to CCSD Care standards, sending out more videos showing how successful interactions with students and families look, what they look like, and other supporting materials to embed CCSD Cares into our CCSD culture. And that is the presentation. I would love to hear your feedback and your questions.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Trustee Johnson, I'm going to go to you first before I go to other trustees on the dais. But Trustee Johnson, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks for this, Kirsten. I know it took a lot of time to gather all that data, and for you to be able to take that feedback so quickly and to incorporate it into a swap meeting, that's impressive. Do you have like an estimated timeline on when you want to, or like maybe not a timeline, like a order of operations, like what you think is going to be the highest priority versus what could be gotten to last?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot on this list. So I would say that we've already initiated a lot of this, like the CCSD Cares. The website will launch in December, excuse me. So we could certainly keep you updated on the timeline. Some of this is already in progress. Some of it probably will be more long-term. Like, for example, we have the opportunity to pilot a few parent communication channels in the spring that might be contenders for district-wide parent communication channels. But of course, we also want to have focus groups with principals and families and students to talk about what we need in parent communication channels, talk to schools about how they would feel if we were to transition into a more unified communication channel. So that's an example of a more long-term project, because of course we would want to get school input. So I hope that answers your question. Some things are already happening, and some things probably won't happen until the end of the school year, is what I would say.
That's helpful. Keep up the great work. I know it's not easy, and if we can be supportive, especially around communications, that's one of the things that we have a unique position to do. I would love to learn how we can be we can be leveraged. We, the board, can be leveraged in helping spread the word with some of the new initiatives, especially around communication. So keep up the great work.
We will call on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Henry, any questions from you? Okay, I will
I'm
go.
sorry, it was,
Okay.
I was trying to come off mute. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's a lot of information. I know that you were going around interviewing everyone who would allow you to, right?
Yes.
I want to know more about the partnership office. I'm trying to look through my slide at the same time. Um, so with the partnership offices, I noticed there was a bullet point that says schools know how to find the partners that they need. And I know that we have a lot of partners and organizations and businesses that they give a lot of donations and they support certain schools, but what is it going to look like for schools to be able to access this?
Thank you. I'm really happy to talk about this. And I just didn't want to make this, I could talk about this all for hours. So that was actually my abridged version. Sorry about that. But we're really excited about the protocols we're talking about. We're talking about, first of all, surveying schools at the beginning of the school year and saying, or over the summer before the school year, and saying, for your school plan, what kind of partnerships do you need? And asking them to provide that information, and then working to link the partners that we have to those schools. And then consistently, or throughout the school year, identifying partners and asking them what they would like to provide. I think something that happens, and this is just natural human behavior, is we have some principals that really enjoy going out and finding community partners and advocating for their schools, and we have some principals that are focused on other things, and that's fine because that's not their core business, right? Their core business is teaching and learning. But we have some schools that have a lot of partners and some schools that have none, and so we need to figure out how we help the schools spread the love, because every school deserves to have at least one partner that's specifically aligned to their needs for their vision for their school. And so, again, it'll be surveying schools, making sure we have partners lined up for their specific needs, and then also helping them with the gratitude process throughout the year, providing them with some information on how they can thank their partners. I hear a lot from our partners in the community. They feel like it's sometimes a one-way street, right? Really, all you have to do sometimes is give them a picture that they can, an approved picture with kids who have media releases that they can post on social media, and they'll be thrilled, right? So it's helping schools figure out how to show gratitude to our partners, and then also finding out which partners didn't come through for them, right? So that we make sure we get them a different partner and figure out what happened with that partnership or stop utilizing that partner. So it's going to be a continuous communication throughout the school year and making sure that everybody's telling us what they need and then following through with what they said they would do.
Thank you.
Thank you
Trustee
so
Henry.
much. And thank you so much. And the other question was around marketing. And I know that social media, you mentioned being able to pay for ads on social media is something that we just don't have a budget for right now. What's the plan to build that in, since a lot of individuals are on social media?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We actually are proposing a reorganization that's in the process of consideration. We are not eliminating any positions, I'll make that clear, but we're proposing a reorganization and some redistribution of funds that would give us a little bit of a media budget. We've canceled a few things and that sort of, reallocating funds, because I think this has to be a priority for us. We are way behind. We all know that charter schools are out there. They are selling themselves, and good for them. But we have not kept up with that, and we're really seeing the effects of that now. And we have so much to offer, right? So assuming that I can proceed with this reorganization and repurposing of funds that I'm proposing, we'll have a little bit of funds that we can utilize for marketing. And then my hope is that we'll track the impact of those funds and we can come and ask for more, because we'll show that we're actually bringing in students, and that's earning more money, right? So.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any questions from trustees here on the dais? Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. You know how I feel about the social media side of things, and I appreciate you for even listening, because it is important to listen and see. I do sit on this dais, but I'm also a parent, so I definitely felt you speaking to my soul about one way, one standard way to communicate, because this Halloween party had me going through all my apps recently. I want to see, as we talk about our own website as a district, I think one of the other things that I have seen as I've spent my time going through my district schools, their individual websites, they also need a lot of support. Is there anything in your plans to support those schools who have not spent or sometimes don't have the budgeting and they just have the Wix free, you know, and they're just kind of putting some basic stuff on their website, but to really amplify it? Because I do see some of the schools that have been here presenting to us, their website looks amazing and it calls to the people, especially if you're looking it up. And then you can go to some other school who don't have the budgeting or don't have support, and it is, sometimes they don't even have websites working. And it's just, how can we support those schools?
100%. A few thoughts. First, Deputy Superintendent Welsh did send out standards this year for what should be included on a school website. And so theoretically, there are some basics that should be on every school website. So, and I'm not sure that that's been sent out before. So hopefully that is a good first step for this school year. But we're actually utilizing Final Site for our completing our new website. You can see that's part of our homepage there. And a nice thing about Final Site is that they've offered for a very low price to basically replicate the design of our main CCSD website for any school that wants it, which is really nice. And we have, I think, about 60 schools. Oh, sorry, 105 schools. I haven't gotten an update in a while. That's really good news. Thank you, Justin. We have 105 schools who've taken us up on that offer. So after our main website launches in November, they'll start migrating those 105 schools over. And I anticipate we'll have even more because some schools have told us that they had just paid for their website for the school year and couldn't do this on time for their budget. But Final Site has graciously said that they'll allow it for next school year too at the reduced price. So that's two things that we're doing. And then a third thing, when we talk about that second bullet point, providing schools with open enrollment with marketing support, Justin and I have had a few conversations about what that'll look like. I think it'll probably look like us creating some sort of short video for the schools saying what makes your school special, right? Like we were just talking to a school that has seen a pretty big drop in enrollment, and they have an amazing musical theater program, and they're not a magnet school. So, and then they had a chess club, and then, you know, they've got the house system and all that, right? And so we were getting excited just talking to the principal about how we could market this school and how it's this great little neighborhood school. It's like smaller size, has so much to offer families. So we're looking at doing videos for them, helping them figure out like what their elevator pitch is, helping them figure out how to do school tours, and then of course helping like doing an audit of their school website to say, what are you missing? What do you need to be doing to sell yourself to families? And of course social media as well, providing them with social media content. So that's what we're thinking about doing in some of these test cases this school year. I'm hoping that we can provide, you know, probably I'm thinking about 20 to 30 of the schools on the open enrollment list, which are schools that have seen declining enrollment, right? Or have seats open, let's put it that way. Provide them with this marketing support so that then we can expand that in future years.
Perfect, thank you. My other question is, as we talk about partnerships too, are you including partners who work with the family engagement department directly, who are going to the schools? Because I have seen some community organizations that will partner up with family engagement, and I think those get kind of gone through the cracks sometimes as we talk about partnerships with us. So I don't know if that's included or if that's something that needs to be included.
Like their work hasn't been highlighted, or what do you mean by?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a great example of why we're talking about doing this. So when I first started, actually, Trustee Bustamante Adams asked me for a list of all of the district partners, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't provide that to you because there's the partnership office, there's family engagement, onboarding, teaching and learning, onboarding has partnerships, Magnet School has partnerships, Student Support Services has partnerships. So there are partnerships scattered all over the school district, and we need to do a better job of centralizing them into one location. We want to make it clear we're not trying to take these over because people are very, you know, like it's hard to develop these partnerships. They don't want us to steal them, right? Which I understand. But we do want to at least be able to know what the partnership is, you know, what's the objective and the goals, and then, you know, how are we tracking those goals, and then how can we help lift them up, to your point, so they don't fall through the cracks. Because there's great things happening everywhere.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I have seen the change since you've joined the team, and so I'm excited to just see what comes out after this analysis. And I know we've been waiting for this analysis, so and I appreciate my colleagues' questions because they answered a lot of them. So I want to dive into the media partnerships and like. I know sometimes there'll be a story and it won't even be a CCSD related, but they write it in a way that inclines that it is CCSD, or they'll say Clark County. Have we made, what kind of relationships have we built now with that?
I'm laughing. I'm looking at Melinda because we had this happen today. So a news, or obviously school traffic safety, rightfully so, has been a huge issue in the media. And a media organization posted a story that said the increase in accidents or students hit in CCSD crosswalks there was an increase in students hit in CCSD crosswalks, excuse me. And our communications team was on it immediately. They said, this list of student incidents is valley-wide. It's not just in CCSD crosswalks. It's also not just CCSD students. I mean, they're all our students, they're all our kids, right? We need to keep them safe. But it was just a really misleading headline. And so we try to stay on top of that as best we can. And we agree with you. And we try to call them whenever we can. We are constantly calling and asking for corrections or saying this is not our perspective, trying to work through it. I would say also, though, at the beginning of the school year, Superintendent Ebert brought back something from back in the day where we went and visited we drove to every TV station, every newspaper. We sat down with them and we said, listen, we understand, if we do something wrong, write about it, right? Like we know that sometimes we make mistakes and we're a public agency and you're going to call us out, but be fair, right? And so I think they seemed very receptive to it at the time. Of course, we've had a lot happen even since then. But I think the key is to continue, Melinda's team is constantly on the phone talking to folks and talking through stories.
Great. And I guess has the partnership gotten stronger since then? I know sometimes, even recently, it's like they still keep writing stories. So I don't know if it, because my perception is the first click, right? They want that first click, but nobody sees the retraction. And so that's just the most frustrating part on our end. But yeah, no, I'm sure you share that also. And then with the website, man, I'm excited, like as a parent, to see that change and to see it. Do you see just it becoming more user-friendly? Like I know there's like a lot of different pages to go into.
Yeah.
Do we see it just kind of consolidating a lot more, or what are your thoughts? And it doesn't have to go into detail, just.
Well, even if you look at this screenshot, it's just maybe the top fourth of the website, but you can see it's pretty clean. One of the problems that happens with websites when they're up for 12 or 15 years is suddenly there's just everything. People just keep adding. There's more and more stuff on there. And our current website, I mean, we're doing the best we can with it, but it's just a mix of everything.
Yeah.
It's hard to navigate. And one of my biggest complaints is the search feature doesn't work. And so you can't find anything on the website. Yeah. So yes, this one we designed, we did surveys, and then we also looked at the pages that were visited the most. And so that's what drove the links that you see on the top of the page. And then we also have a search feature that will actually work, which I think will be beneficial.
Nice. I'm really excited for that search feature. And my last question was about public records. So, I know we receive a lot of public comment regarding public records. What are your thoughts on how we're trying to reorganize or just trying to retrain people in public records?
Yeah, so one of the directions that Superintendent Ebert gave me when I started was that she values transparency, and I think we all do, right? We're a public agency. What we did is we called every municipality and law enforcement agency around town, and we asked them what they currently do in terms of public records, and so we gathered that information, obviously examined NRS to make sure that we are always in compliance. But I think the ultimate goal of public records is not to charge. Like we actually don't want to have to charge for public records. What we would like to do is figure out ways that we can offer something that gives people what they need, but doesn't take a huge amount of staff time that would require us to charge, right? And so I'm very proud that our Director of Public Records has been in the position for quite some time. And so she's pretty good at saying to people, okay, what are you actually looking for here? Let me help you find it. And that's really the approach that we're trying to take. And in cases where there is a huge amount of staff time required, then we may have to charge, but we'll make it really clear if that's the case.
Thank you. And I appreciate the sentiments of my colleagues because you've done an excellent job in partnerships and just in communication. So I really appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you. I should say every time here that the team behind me is doing a lot of work, so, and they're really awesome. So it's a credit to them.
They're smiling and nodding, so yes.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you, Ms. Sear, for the presentation. And yes, I was one of the naive people that you interviewed.
Yay, thank you.
So I'll throw that out there. So I have several questions. I'll try to just ask like 2 or 3 so we don't run the time down. How do you visualize, as far as crisis response, how do you visualize us being better on that and being more consistent on that? I know it's a really high-level question, but
No, it's a great question. So this is an area where we have already started to make some progress, and we're working with Dr. Welsh and Deputy Superintendent Gonzalez on this. But it's another area where when we have incidents at schools, schools have a way that they report to the region offices. They oftentimes call the communications office separately, and then oftentimes school police has their own method of communicating what's going on. And I think it's caused frustration for all of us, including all of you. Sometimes you feel like, somebody said this to me, it was a joke, but it's kind of not. I feel like I know about every toilet that's backed up in the district, but I didn't hear about the major issue that's on the news right now, right? And so it's not just the communications office, although Melinda's done a lot of work on this. We're working with the deputy superintendents to figure out, really lay out clearly for schools, like this type of incident, this is an urgent incident, this is what you need to do. This type of incident, it's like an emergent incident, this is how you communicate it. And then I'm not sure we've been really clear with them on that. And so that's a whole district-wide effort, but I think that there's a real recognition that we need to fix this.
okay. Thank you so much for that, because I know that is something that comes up all the time, and I know that all my colleagues probably agree with me that, we all of a sudden get, a text like, what is happening over here at this school? There's 10 police cars and all that. We can't comment because we don't know, and even if we do know, we can't comment. So I think what we're looking for here is like some kind of consistency, and that's just what you were talking about right now. Do you, a kind of a follow-up, Kristen, do you visualize that being like a whole, kind of like separate area, like a whole within your team working on that specific thing?
Well, I think we're going to have clear guidance documents put out by several chiefs. And some things, will continue to be handled by the regions. Certainly the lower level incidents that are, typically reported through the regions now. And then some things will be reported through communications if it's, more urgent. So again, I think it's consistency and actually telling people what to do. I think a lot of times people are reporting everywhere because they don't want to get in trouble for not reporting. And then sometimes things that are not super urgent are getting blasted out and the opposite too. So I just think we need to be clear with folks about what to do.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to pivot over to something completely different area. When we were talking about the University of Family Learning and, kind of some of the reorganization going on there, is this going to affect at all the structure of the University of Family Learning classes?
No, we think that the University of Family Learning classes are a real gem, as are the Super Saturday events. If anybody has not been to one, I would highly recommend you attend. We want to expand those as best we can within our budget, but we will continue with those under the Family Engagement Unit. One thing we are looking at is how to better survey families who attend these courses to see if they were relevant and helpful to them, because that's something that we have not done yet.
Okay, thank you so much. And last question for right now, unless we have more time, is on having to do with municipalities and the government affairs and feeling that, they need better and more consistent communication. Is there any particular area that you guys have been able to identify that they feel that we need to do better in? I know that's a big question.
That is a big question.
Yeah.
I Feel free to pop up, Brad, if you want to. But
He
the
doesn't wanna
things that
pop up.
I heard was that they were sometimes reading about CCSD initiatives in the news before we were letting them know. And so we have been very intentional about, like, for example, you all know that we did a school start time survey. And so before we launched that survey, because it could affect municipalities because of SafeKey, we got them all on the phone. We said, hey, we're launching the survey. It could affect SafeKey. Would it be okay with you? And overwhelmingly, they were really excited that we communicated with them about that.
Real quick, Brad Keating for the record. Great question. I think one of the things that we've learned and we've heard from elected officials, and we are working on that right now. We were just on a call with RC this week, is creating one-pagers that provide all of the information about the statistics of each school so that they have it handy. And elected officials have made it known to us that they want to engage with you all as elected officials. So I think providing them the information about their schools is extremely helpful. So we are working on all of that data and then finding ways to meaningfully engage with you all throughout the legislative process and throughout every year will be a big win for all of us.
Thank you both so much, and I'm going to save my last question for the next item on the agenda because I think it's going to be more appropriate for that particular item. Thank you so much.
Brad will be back.
Yes, he will.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza again.
Excuse me. Thank you, Ms. Sear, for the presentation. I have a lot of questions because there's like 26 slides here.
I know.
So, and I apologize, get to review them as much in depth as I normally do, but I will try to make it short. So I want to look at three things: process, people capacity, and then perception. So let's go with process. I'm curious, we have 90 people that took the survey, or you did the
I
SWOT.
interviewed them.
You interviewed them. I want to go back to Trustee Johnson's point about how do we prioritize the feedback? Because typically, we would get like a certain percentage said, we want more consistency with school websites. So how do we prioritize all of the 26 points in the order? And I only ask that because I guess there's a part two to this is like the beginning, right? This is what you summarized from what the public said. So I'll stop there about that, maybe the process itself.
Of how we're prioritizing?
Yes.
Well, there's some things that we can do now, right, that aren't gonna, like the website, the relaunch of the website was actually initiated in the spring, and the purpose was always to launch it in December or this fall. We were able to take some of the feedback we got to improve the website, but that was already in motion. So there are some things that were already happening, or we don't have to gather a ton of community input to do. So those are the things we're attacking first, and things that don't take a budget. And so then we're attacking the things that will require a lot of community input, because we don't want to do this in a vacuum, right? So things like the parent communication platform, even the partnership protocols, we know we want to get some more input from partners, right? So I would say phase one are things that we can do without a huge amount of input or money, and then phase 2 and 3 are more input, more money.
There it is. I think if I could see, I'm such a visual learner, if I could see like phase 1, what you're going to focus on, phase 2, and then phase 3, I think that would help us to know, and I'll actually support the work and be realistic about, okay, well, why hasn't this been done? So thank you for answering that. It's already been answered. I think as a follow-up, I don't need to know who you interviewed, but I'd like to know what groups you interviewed.
Yeah,
So could we
absolutely.
just have a quick little bullet of, these are the organizations, these are the groups, I don't need to know names. I want to see maybe, because if there's a loop of feedback, who do we need to bring back the next time?
Absolutely. I kept a list of everyone, so we can easily provide that.
Now capacity, people. I'm looking at the back of the room, there are 7 people. I'm a little worried about 26 slides with
8 with Justin.
Justin, you're on the other side. I apologize, Justin. No omission on purpose. So I'm worried. So when I talk about priorities, maybe there are things as you're doing your process with your team, what's going to come off the plate? What are we going to stop doing that maybe has been done in the past that maybe is not yielding that fruit? And I just say because a lot of our community is very social media savvy. And yeah, things in persons are lovely, and I've been to all the amazing events that have been put on Saturdays, on the evening, all of that. So I worry about the capacity of the people and the work that's listed here. I'll stop and pause.
I'm guessing that if you surveyed the people behind me, who are all incredible individuals who work very hard, they would tell you they're a little tired, and they are. It's a lot of work ahead of us. We're trying to be sensitive about that because, of course, we want to change everything immediately. So I would say that we have probably offboarded a few things. But some of this, like I said, we're looking at reorganizing some things that I think will make us more effective and efficient. But yeah, that's it's a real concern. And I've said to them a few times, like, if you feel like this is too much, let me know. We do have within our reorganization some ideas of, I think it's only one position that we're looking to add. Still revenue neutral in the unit. But yeah, it is a real concern. We're running really hard, but we think this is really important work. We know that in order for us to move the needle on academics, we've got to rebuild trust within the district.
And thank you for saying.
Within the community.
Within the community. And I appreciate that because I think it's building capacity too within our schools. And so I think I really appreciate when you said in one of the, I don't know what slide it is, the principals are going to get retrained again on the interaction with the media. And I love that you said that you went and visited the media. I think there's a lot of revolving doors with some of our media reporters. A lot of them are educational focused. Not to add to the plate, but maybe that could be something that could be considered. So that perception, I'm going to move to that. Perception is people's reality. And oftentimes when we get calls, it's because there's concerns or complaints. And so I just think we can do better with that piece of it. And I'm looking forward to seeing some phases and maybe paring down things. And really, I just want to make sure that the team has the capacity to do that, to support.
Thank you. I'm sure they thank you as well.
Superintendent Ebert, do you want to chime in, or should I take? Okay.
Yeah, with the question that just came up, and then also the other components that have been spoken to so far. So if you first of all think that about Kirsten, she's been here 4 months. 4 months, and has built out new processes and lifting up the 8 people in the room that have had capacity to do the work. And it's about doing the work that they've been doing differently. We also have tyranny of the urgent, and she's been presenting that this whole entire time with building back the trust, making sure that it's clear communication and that it's transparent. That we did go to all of the media stations, and all were very receptive. They had said that they had not seen a superintendent, some of them in decades, coming to them, right? They usually, the superintendent was waiting until media came to them. I did not wait. I went out to the media with Kirsten and had those conversations. And so when the misunderstanding, right, because the way that information flows sometimes is so fast that it's not complete. And so if it's not complete, then there's inaccuracies that are going. And the team they will reach back to the media and say, hey, you know, this story that you have now just put out there, you don't have all of the information. And what's been nice is they've been receptive to saying, okay, thank you for contacting us. And it's not, you know, adversarial, because I have no problem with the reporting, right? Fair and accurate. Fair and accurate. And so that's what we've all been focusing on, making sure that happens. And so back to doing the business differently, yes, they are running full tilt in all of the work that they're doing, opening 8 schools this year, plus bringing back the next item that you're going to spend time talking about. All of those to meet the current needs of the district And it is about, yes, I mean, I can go in every classroom across the district, say, we need more resources, we need more resources. We already know that, but it's how are we currently using the resources that we have, that she has done an excellent job with all of the people doing this SWOT analysis.
Awesome, thank you. Trustee Satori.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to our entire team for all of your hard work. It's really, really great to see. My question regarding the family engagement centers and the Saturday events, how are we connecting those to our rural communities, just because they often are so isolated from those services?
Yeah, that is a great question. I'm going to have Brad come up for that one too. Every once in a while, you got to phone a friend.
Brad Keating, for the record, she only called me up to make sure I wasn't sleeping in the back. So we do a great job. Our family engagement team with Alvin Dazan and Cindy Flores do an incredible job every single day. So we have been incredibly focused over the last year at really creating those partnerships and bringing them out to the rurals a number of different ways. So we've worked with the Indian Education Opportunities Program to bring it out, to bring programming out to the Moapa Education Support Center. We've worked with the communities in Moapa and Laughlin to ask them what kind of services that they've needed, and we've brought those out. Our Safe Routes to Schools program has been incredible out in those areas, training and teaching kids how to ride bikes safely. So we have met with the counties and the jurisdiction, the counties and then the local municipalities as well to really figure out what services they need, and we're bringing them to them. We're really trying as hard as we can to bring those services. If we can't, Cindy Flores and Kirsten mentioned it tonight. We're doing a great job at our Family Support Center on all of the services that we provide in person, turning them around and making them virtual opportunities. So these individuals who can't come in are able to get on a Zoom meeting with a lawyer and talk about some things they need to. So we're really focused on making sure that everyone in our community can receive that support.
Excellent. Thank you for being so thoughtful on that. Similarly, was there input from the rural communities in this feedback?
Well, what Dr. Keating brought up was that there is a perception that not even among the rural committees, but communities, them and like Boulder City and even, further parts of Northwest or Henderson, there's a perception that the family engagement centers and the family support center wasn't available to them. And so we clearly need to completely rebrand how we offer that. And we also need to figure out how to offer more virtual services. So that perception was expressed loud and clear. Thank you, Dr. Keating, that was a great response. The only other thing I was going to add is we just put in a grant application to have the CCSD book bus go out and visit our rural communities. And so we're really excited about that because we definitely want to step up our literacy outreach everywhere as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, and Trustee Cavazos will close this out.
I forgot a couple of questions I had to do just real quick about public records. When somebody, the same individual or organization asks for the same information that they themselves, not another media or not another individual, do we give them that same information again, even if it's exactly the same as what we gave them already?
We've had that a few times, and what we do is we'll say this is the responsive information was provided to you on this date
previously or whatever. Okay, thank you. And also, how many people do we have that are able to work on that, on responding to public records requests?
Well, we currently have a director and 2 coordinators under her.
Okay, so 3 altogether.
Yes.
And last question, this came up today. I won't say the name of the news station, but when we release videos and our public records, decides, our attorneys, whatever, release a video, and it is of a very sensitive nature, and all the protocols are followed as far as, like redacting student names, confidential information, but it happens to be, say, a video that is something somewhat disturbing and traumatic to a family. Do we have any control over that? Because I got 6 messages about that today.
Yeah. I don't know if Mr. Okazaki wants to join in here, but I will say that we provide quite a few videos through the public records process, and we always blur student faces, always, and protect student identities. But I'll have Mr. Okazaki answer that because that's a matter of NRS.
Yeah, thank you. John Okazaki, General Counsel. So in addition to redacting any confidential information, we have taken upon ourselves in certain videos to blur out what we would consider to be shockingly, I don't know how to, yes, images that are not necessary to the idea of the release of public information. So for example, the unfortunate car accident in front of Arborview, we stopped it before impact. So it represents what it does. It conveys the message that the public record holds, but it doesn't include that kind of image.
Okay.
And from what I understand, we've done that a few times, and we haven't got any pushback on that.
Okay.
But that's something that we took it upon ourselves collectively to do.
Okay, thank you. And I understand that we do have to follow the NRS in regard to the particular request, and I really do appreciate, that particular, what you're talking about is similar to what was released today on a different incident, but it was, people that were intimately involved with this particular incident that were upset. So thank you for the clarification, though. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That ends our 2.03. And it was not an action item, so we don't have any public comment. But I believe you are also next for 2.04. And this would be our last business item for our meeting today. And I do want to thank the trustees that were involved in the working group to help put these community engagement meetings together for trustees.
All right. I just want to say thanks again to the team that showed up tonight and all the work that they're doing. And now we have another team member who's been working extremely hard. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, my name is Kirsten Sear, Chief Community Engagement Officer for the record. And I'm happy to be joined today by Dr. Brad Keating, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Community Partnerships and Government Relations, and Kelsey Rodman, who is the Director of Engagement and Events. We are pleased today to provide an update on the trustee community engagement meetings, which began this past September. These meetings are designed to strengthen the connection between you, our members of the board, and the communities you serve. And I'd like to note that this is not an action item, but we hope to have a discussion about the initial data and feedback we have received to get your guidance so that staff can make adjustments to the structures of future meetings. So the purpose of these meetings is simple but significant. They are intended to foster meaningful dialogue between trustees and the public. And our goals include providing a consistent opportunity for families, staff, students, and community members to interact with their trustees in an open forum, ensuring conversations remain focused on education, community priorities, and student success, helping communities feel heard and informed while enhancing transparency, and also utilizing the meetings, the first few meetings we have utilized as an opportunity to gather feedback for the strategic plan that we are now creating along with our community. So these meetings complement our broader engagement strategy and provide an additional consistent touch point for families and stakeholders. And I will now turn it over to Dr. Keating.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. Brad Keating for the record. Since launching in September, we've successfully hosted 4 meetings across districts B, G, D, and C, with all municipalities represented and all appointed trustees participating. And we have a meeting tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., in case you're listening, with Trustee Bustamante, Adams, Stevens, and Satori at Desert Oasis High School. It's the place to be. During the most recent meeting hosted at Cheyenne High School by trustees Henry, Barone, and Johnson, 35 people attended in person, and the meeting was recorded and posted on the CCSD website. After posting the recording from the October 7th trustee community engagement meetings hosted by trustees Zamora, Johnson, and Satori, there have been 59 views. It's important to note that this was without any promotion of the recording being posted. Attendance and participation have varied by location. and scheduling. However, we're seeing a growing community interest and positive feedback. We've seen engagement not only from families and school staff, but also from civic partners and community leaders, demonstrating a shared commitment to supporting our schools and our students. Now I'll turn it over to Kelsey Rodman to discuss what we've learned thus far.
Good evening, Kelsey Rodman for the record. Through this first series of meetings, several lessons we have learned. One of those being that optional RSVP is the way to go. It's very valuable. We're never going to turn any community member away from these meetings, but it is very valuable in terms of allowing us to prepare for the number of seating, room setup, all of that, and also allows us to get some preemptive questions that we know the community wants to ask our trustees so that you can feel prepared. Additionally, clear communication is critical. So we utilize our principals to send out a lot of the information so that families are aware of your meetings. And some principals have reported uncertainty about promoting certain meetings outside of their immediate school communities. So for instance, where trustees span larger areas and the particular location of the meeting isn't within close proximity to their school. And then additionally, we've noticed that streaming formats vary based on the preference of the trustees hosting. So some trustees chose to live stream their meetings while others decided to record and post later. Both meetings in September were live streamed, and both meetings in October were recorded and posted at the request of those given trustees. Live streaming provides transparency, but it also causes some audio challenges that we found, and it raises the expectation for real-time interaction, which we don't currently have the support to do. And then one option, if we choose to record and then post the meeting, is to promote the recording after the event through social media, which we haven't yet done. So that is something to note. But these lessons will help us strengthen the process as we move forward to support these meetings.
It's Brad Keating for the record. So based on the feedback and observations from September through today, we are here with a few recommendations. Number one, the advanced planning is key on all of these. We would like to finalize the full meeting calendar for all the remainder of the school year to reduce conflicts with districts and district and community events. This timeline also gives principals the ability to build meeting promotion for us into their longer term communication plans, and it also ensures that we have adequate time to secure support from the key departments involved. So translation services and Clark County School District PD, a number of departments are all engaged in this. Number two, we want to clarify the communication protocols. So we've been asking all principals in participating trustee districts to distribute information about the events. We would like to shift to asking all principals in the host/elected trustee district to send information to their families, and give principals in the appointed trustee district the option to send out the information, as their school communities may be far from the meeting location, which Ms. Rodman just discussed. Number three, a consistent meeting format. We'd like to work with all of you to standardize whether the meeting should be live streamed or recorded to ensure consistency and clarity for the public, and a few things there. Although we see a decent amount of virtual viewers joining the meeting via the live stream, the average view time for those viewers is just over 15 minutes. And I think part of that reason is because the virtual attendees are unable to interact with us. If this changes the preference to recording meetings, we'll need a consistent communication plan post-meeting to ensure families in the community are aware that the recording is available for them to watch on the CCSD website. While offering the live stream version is more timely, we as a team, after going through these, recommend recording all the meetings and posting them on the CCSD website the following morning. This approach allows us to use lapel microphones for each trustee, which results in a significantly improved audio quality if you've been able to look through them. Additionally, this week, we conducted testing on our team to confirm that the lapel microphones, which enhance the audio in the recording, and the in-room microphones, which support in-person attendees, can operate simultaneously to ensure optimal sound quality for all to participate. So we'll be able to utilize both, and everyone can hear from there. Number four, tracking the participation trends. We'll continue to monitor with the board office the attendance at our meetings to guide scheduling and format decisions. We believe as a team that these steps support transparency, efficiency, and fairness across all trustee areas. Ms. Rodman.
So as we continue this engagement work into the remainder of the semester and then ultimately into the spring 2026, we look forward to supporting each board member in hosting successful sessions that reflect the needs and voices of the communities that you serve. As Dr. Keating mentioned, tomorrow night, trustees Bustamante Adams, Satori, and Stevens will be hosting the 5th trustee community engagement meeting at Desert Oasis High School. And then our final meeting during the fall semester will be held on November 12th at Palo Verde High School, and that will be hosted by trustees Biasotti and Johnson. I do want to add, just for 1 second, I want to recognize Caitlin Taylor in the board office for all of the work she has done for these trustee community engagement meetings. We are in lockstep, and she's done a lot.
So thank you for your support and commitment to community engagement. We just had a long conversation about how important that is, and we think these meetings are a great step toward building trust throughout our community. Again, this is not an action item, but we would love to answer your questions and hear your feedback on what you've seen so far with the meetings so that we can make sure that they remain engaged and consistent. And I'm happy to turn it over to the superintendent for comments or any trustee questions.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take questions from those on the phone. Trustee Johnson, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any. I will also say I really appreciated how I don't have any questions, but I will say I appreciate how diligent the group has been around testing and like figuring out what works. I know we've done a lot of trial and error, so just it's been really great to work with the team as they iterate and we find our way towards the best solution. So thanks for all the hard work, y'all.
Thank you. Trustee Henry, any questions from you?
No questions. I just want to echo Trustee Johnson's sentiments. Like, thank you to our staff members for everything that they have done to assist us in making sure that our meetings are successful, and just want to work through and making sure that they are consistent with, whether we live stream or if we post the recordings the next day. It's the first of many, so I'm just glad that they are happening.
Thank you. Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, team, because there has been, and I want to take a moment to also thank Trustee Johnson because he has been helpful on the feedback from all the meetings he has attended, and it's only because he covers a lot of schools. And Caitlin, because definitely, with scheduling 11 people or anyone that's coming up has been very difficult, because I know there was a time with Trustee Cavasso's meeting, like we were thinking the same week, and that's also kind of, can be conflicting. So I thank everyone because the scheduling is going to be difficult. I hope to see that we are being proactive and kind of get those on the calendar. I know we were doing TBD in October, and we learned our lesson the hard way through that because trustees are like, when is your meeting? So I'm glad to see that. And the trial and error. I also want to mention that the recording part, I think it's important to mention the ASL interpreters because it's easier to include that section into the recording over the live stream. And as we're talking about, all the accessibility we can do, that is very important to mention. I have one question. When people are RSVPing, and they are asked, what district, are you in? And it's not a district that they signed up for a meeting that's not their district. Do they get any communication back?
Kelsey Rodman for the record. Trustee Zamora, probably and frankly, that's something that Caitlin might have more information on because she owns that RSVP form, but my understanding, if I'm incorrect, we are allowing everyone to participate in any of the meetings they want and just making note, and that is also why we're preparing the trustees 3 days in advance with who's coming so that you can see that information, but I don't know that we're communicating back with them to then inform them that maybe this meeting isn't one that applies to where their child goes to school, if that makes sense.
Because I have a concern that even if it's like, hey, you can still attend, but this is not your district, that can be interpreted differently, and I don't want to turn people away. So just kind of figuring out what that language can be and just being intentional. I love that we're doing more of optional to RSVP because I definitely think of families who are probably getting out of work and they say they have time and they can stop by. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, team, for all your help, and Caitlin also, and all of our innumerable questions here. So I wanted to find out about the promotion part here, because I know that after, and you know, we had watched Trustee Dominguez and Trustee Johnson. By the way, Trustee Johnson, I'm going to ask a question for you. Why does Trustee Johnson have to go to every single meeting? Poor guy. No wonder he's giving us all this feedback. He's been at every single meeting. I actually had somebody ask me, does he represent the whole district by himself? And I said, yes, he does. So, you know, there's that. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to ask about the promotion part. So when we are, like when Ramon and I had our meeting, you know, we were communicating with the city of Henderson. We were communicating with the different, you know, connections that we had, and we had a very good response. And because Trustee Dominguez had communicated with me about the audio issues, we were able to work with Kirsten, and we had some pretty good audio for that, but that's because we kind of learned, you know, the difficulties you'd had. So I like live stream myself, but I'm willing to go with what, you know, is better for everybody. On the promotions, are you guys, you know, besides putting out on social media, and what I'm understanding here is to avoid confusion, that when we have the appointed and the elected trustees principal is going to be asked to send out the information, and then the appointed principal, am I saying this correctly? They're going to have the option. Is it going to be like kind of discretionary?
Yeah, Kirsten's here for the record. Let me start with the promotions, if that's okay. So
Sure.
we have been posting the meetings on the website. We've been posting them on social. We've been sending them out in our Friday parent link that goes out to all families. And we also have sent them out to all the principals. So I'll segue to that and ask the principals, you know, provided them with social media, a little graphics and flyers that they can distribute to their schools. In terms of sending to the principals, yes, what I'm recommending is that for the trustee who's hosting the meeting, the elected trustee who's hosting the meeting, so the school is theoretically in their district, that we would ask all of the principals in that district to send out the information. But for example, you know, Trustee Satori represents Clark County. You know, I don't know, even though, you know, a school that's like maybe in the far east or, you know, more toward Henderson may not want to send something out about Desert Oasis because it's a really long drive. And so principals were giving us that feedback and saying, you know, I'll send out whatever you want me to send out, but this is really far from my families and it may not feel accessible to them and might actually make things worse. So that's my recommendation, that we say for the elected official, the schools that are within the district that trustee represents, we ask all the principals to send it out, but otherwise we make it optional based on their location.
Okay, and kind of going back to what Trustee Zamora had asked, with not giving a perception of like we're turning anybody away, that maybe we can go to something like, this is not in your district, but there is an upcoming meeting coming up that you might want to attend that's closer to your location. My other follow-up, Kristen, was on the promotion. Are we sending out anything in particular? And this was a question I held over from the last item. Are we sending out anything in particular to the municipalities and letting them know? And are we also sending out to partners? Like I noticed, like for instance, for the meeting tomorrow night, I noticed that Opportunity 180 had put out, you know, quite a few, you know, promotions on that. Are we giving them information, or are they just taking that off of our promotions?
Yeah, Kirsten's here for the record. To be candid, the municipalities have told us that they like to have a few weeks in advance to promote anything, which is partly why we are asking that we establish a schedule for the rest of the school year, because sometimes we've solidified the meetings too late to fit that timeline. So that's something that's an area of growth and opportunity, and I think if we are able to confirm the meetings through the rest of the school year, we can do that. And honestly, we haven't talked about reaching out to partners, but that's a great idea. And again, I think if we have one long list, it'll make it easier for everybody.
Okay, because I noticed, you know, that, you know, the partner that I just mentioned right now, they probably maybe didn't even know about the other meetings or something, and now they know about it, so they're promoting that. So I just thought that would be a good way. And Trustee, as far as the Stofferkin and I did our own municipality reach out, you know, and we did get a good response on that because our location, Thurman White, it was in my district, but it actually was, you know, it's also in her appointed district too. It was a Henderson school. Because a lot of people think I have like 2 Henderson schools, I have 14. So, it is a little bit, it's kind of a thin line to kind of manage there. Thank you so much.
Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. And I really appreciated going first in this community engagement meeting. I always like jumping in the pool first. So I appreciated getting all the kinks worked out on our first meeting. And so for brevity, I know I gave like a very detailed email on all the things that we could have done better. I know that's not able to be shared with all the trustees, but I'm hearing that you were able to inquire that into a survey. And if, I'm sure there was a lot of lessons learned on your half. But something that I wanted to maybe just even highlight for my colleagues is for brevity to learn, when we have a question coming in, not every trustee needs to answer the same question. And so that would help with time, because I know we all have different perspectives and we can all answer one question 3 different ways, but it really does help when one person can answer and then the next person can get the next question. So that just helps us get more questions answered from the people that are in the room and also people online. So I know we weren't even able to get to people's questions online. And so the other thing I noticed was I spent a lot of time, and I'm sure my colleagues did, is informing the community of like trustee roles and dynamics. And since they were like, my school, this issue. And so it's like, okay, let me redirect you to what you could do or how that can be fixed or who can do that. And it was also helpful when, of course, a shout out to Caitlin, when she would take notes and bring that back and for staff reviews. So that was great. And also the timing, she kept me on time, so I appreciated that. I wanted to hear, my question was about have these meetings been a burden on staff as far as for the time? I know it's in the evening, and what does that look like?
Kelsey Rodman for the record, Trustee Dominguez. I think there's 2 perspectives. I think there's the engagement and events department, and I think there's also the board office, so I don't want to speak for the board office. From my team's perspective, it is obviously additional time and requires hours outside of what you might consider regular hours, but I would not say that this is a huge lift. It's something that we're able to manage by kind of assigning certain staff to certain meetings so that not all staff has to go. And I think as we get better with these meetings and understand sort of how they work and best practices, especially as it relates to the technology piece, it becomes easier and easier. So from my department's perspective, I'm not worried about a capacity issue for these meetings. But to that point, I think it makes it significantly easier on everyone when we can plan this out far in advance.
Yes.
And that would be it. So
I appreciate that. And then I guess I had 2 more, but have we looked at, like, if we're doing it at one school, have we looked at the feeder schools? Have we looked at kind of like that surrounding area to kind of advertise to them? Or are you just looking at the entire district, as you mentioned earlier?
Kirsten's here for the record. So far, we have looked at the entire district, but we could certainly do some extra push with the feeder schools.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because they might be next door, right, crossing a district. So, if some districts are really close together. So, and then the other, I guess, thought was just for my colleagues to know is that, like, I found it really easy to have kind of like a prepared speech or something prepared to start the meeting. So it kind of helps set the tone for how you're going to engage and how, because some people can just go on run sentences and they just want the microphone. And so it really helps to say, hey, just be cautious of everybody wanting to ask a question here. So just ask your question, we can answer, and then we can get to everybody in the room. So I appreciated that. So, and thank you. And again, I thought it was really cool to be part of this team to start this community engagement. This is something so needed in the community, and a shout out to Trustee Johnson for leading the way. And I'm grateful to be part of the team. But yeah, this is a great thing that we started here, and hopefully we get more engagement.
Thank you so much. Vice President Zamora.
I can go after Trustee Esparza-Stravic since she hasn't gone.
No, you go.
No.
Thank you. So a question that kind of came up during the previous conversations with my colleagues, do you know if the municipalities have like a master calendar of their own events that we can reference? Because one of the things that did happen is I did reach out to like my commissioner to see like, hey, can you help promote, my event? They were like, sure, but we have our own event happening. And it was a conflict, I think, of a few events. I mean, it is October, it's Halloween time too. So it was a little bit difficult for my community meeting specifically. And then another question I have, especially for government affairs, is on top of inviting our municipalities, can we also send out emails to elected officials in that area, legislators who might overlap, for one, support, to share the flyer, and two, have them participate as well? Because sometimes there is that miscommunication. I think it would be an opportunity to build those relationships as well. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan, to close this. Oh, go ahead.
Brad Keating
Brad.
for the record. So we have not, that's a great idea. Thank you for that on the municipalities. So we will do that outreach to see what their calendars are as well. I think that's great, especially as we build a master calendar. On our side, we need to know what they're doing so that we're not stepping on top of each other. Elected officials, I think it's a great idea if the trustees believe and want to invite elected officials. I just think you all as trustees have to make the decision on how do you allow that elected official to engage in the meeting, right? So I think that has to be determined and how you want to do that. Yeah. But we're happy to push it out. We just need to know from you all how you want them to engage.
Thank you so much. And to close this out, Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan.
It's like Trustee Zamora and I talked, but we really didn't. I appreciate your suggestion, because if they want to engage more, I think that's a great opportunity for them to be there in a certain capacity for them to listen. I just really want to say, like, thank you to the entire team. It is a huge lift to coordinate 11 people, and sometimes people are being added to schedules, and the community has been very clear about wanting this exchange. So one of the things I felt that was really helpful, and I want to do another shout out to both sides, is that hour and a half was like not enough time, right? We had a lot of people online. We didn't get to any of the online questions. We apologize. We love that we had great turnout. Trustee Cavazos and I put blank cards at the center of the table, and a lot of those were translated into follow-ups for maybe having things addressed. So I just want to offer that as a old school format, to have some kind of a catcher. If we didn't answer your question, if we didn't hear what you wanted to share, how do we capture that in real time? And I was able to give some of those to Mr. Caruso, shout out to you, and he followed up with a lot. And I'm telling you, I have parents now and community members saying, hey, like CCSD called me back, or you called me back, and that kind of follow-up is going a long way. So kudos to all of the groups that are getting this to happen. It's a lot of lift, but it does matter. I'm getting less, well, I shouldn't say put it on record, but the communication has been much better. So thank you for all of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Superintendent, do you want to say anything to close this out?
Just blessed and honored to work with these amazing people, and I'm glad, Trustee Esparza-Stroffigan, that you did mention Joe Caruso, who sits so quietly sometimes, but he's been very much working on all of this as well. And Trustee Zamora did start too, because the conversation was starting right when I just started, and this board, right, came together and brought all of those pieces, and it was brought to life. So it's exciting to see, and we love the community engagement.
Thank you so much. With that, we're going to go ahead and go to item 3.01. It's public comment on items not listed as action items on the agenda. Is there anyone that did not get a chance to complete a public speaker card? We have one person, Miss Atterbury.
That's me.
Please proceed.
Okay. So, Tony Atterbury for the record. I sent you all a statement. I was in jury duty today, so I wasn't sure I was going to make it, so I sent each of you a statement, and hopefully that you read that. I do thank you for the one board member, sorry, my voice is going. The one board member that did reply, I do appreciate that. I think when we're talking about communication, if you guys reply to the people that are consistently sending you things, it is nice to get a comment back saying that at least I read your stuff. I just came to tonight because it's a great night to come. I just want to make sure that I did get a response because I sent to Mr. Caruso, who's awesome as well, my comment, and he did have the department respond. So I just want to make sure that I understand that, or that you understand my point when it comes to, I get that there are parents on the school-based library media center committee in Regulation 6150. I know you guys have heard this number over and over again from me, but I'm still coming back to the same different topics. The one thing that I'm thinking about is when the people in the committee originally pick out the books, I think there's a problem when you come to the committee that's also the same committee who is looking at the books when a parent gives you a CCF 400 form. I think it's a conflict of interest when you have the same committee who's picking them and then actually asking to vet them or not vet them. I think there's a discrepancy in between those two committees. There needs to be some kind of difference in them based on everything that's being said. So I just want to ask you to review Regulation 6150 to align with parent transparency and not the CCSD employees who are preferencing and they're demanding certain things. I think trust is not built behind those closed doors. I think the doors need to be open. I think those committees should be two different aspects in this regulation. The one reason I'm asking about that, because I do think there are still books that are in these libraries. For example, there is a book that is new out. It's called Perfectly Normal. It is in Bob Miller's library. Sorry. And it does talk about STDs, rape, abortion, masturbation, anal sex, and oral sex. And I think sometimes these sexually explicit books, even though they're cartoonish, are still a problem in these school libraries. And I just want to make sure that we are all aware that they are still in those libraries. And I would like that to be addressed, and I would like the two committees to be different. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no others in public comment, we'll move to item 4.0. The next meeting of the Board of Trustees is Friday, November 7th at 8 a.m. at the Southeast Career Technical Academy. And thank you, trustees. Do not go to Vegas PBS, trustees. We will be at SECTA on Friday, November 7th at 8 a.m. Therefore, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for that reminder. And I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Vice President Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I will second that motion.
I have a first and a second. Please cast your votes. Trustee Henry.
Aye.
Trustee Biasotti.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes 7-0. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.